Could you please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem? Be seated. It's my pleasure to welcome Paula Baruch as the cantor of the intern and youth director at Temple Anshe Shalom in Westdale in Hamilton. Mrs. Baruch is the founder of the Shalom Teaching Garden in Churchill Park and a regular volunteer at Shalom Village Retirement Home, and she's married to Rabbi Jordan Cohen. And together they share 6 amazing children. Mrs. Baruch, would you please lead us in prayer?
Mayor Eisenberger, councilors, members of our community, good afternoon. The month of June has brought to our city many festivals, highlighting the robust arts community here in Hamilton, a week-long Pride celebration showing our openness to LGBTQ members of our community, and most notably our hosting of the Pan American Games. While many cities in Canada have been discussing the advisability of opening municipal meetings with prayer, I want to say how grateful I am to live and work in a city where my faith group, among many others, is recognized and invited to invoke a blessing upon the important work of building and sustaining a city. For a city is not just buildings, infrastructure, roads, policing, health and safety, education, business, and parks. It is ultimately the relationships that we build among us that make our lives in this place meaningful and worthy of blessing. Living a happy and a meaningful life depends very much on our ability to reflect and feel thankful for what we do have. Let us be grateful, therefore, for the blessings we enjoy in this country, in this province, and in this amazing city. Let us be grateful for life itself, for our health, our sustenance, for our families and friendships that make our lives full of joy and offer us the challenge to grow ourselves in understanding and in acceptance. Let us be grateful today for the privilege of working for the good of others, for the honor of bearing these responsibilities. In our Hebrew scriptures, Nehemiah teaches that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since these have been established to promote peace and order and justice. Dineh de Malchut Dineh. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I am asking God to be gracious and to grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and the true needs of people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in your lives, and joy in your task. I pray for the agenda set before you today. Please, God, give an assurance for what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Hamilton. Ose shalom bimromav, huyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru, Amen. Bring peace and wholeness upon us. you who brings peace and wholeness to all of Israel, to all peoples in your creation. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you very much for those inspiring and lovely words. Thank you. And you're welcome to stay, but I see you're heading for the door, so that's okay too. Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. There is one additional item of communication noted as 5.8, correspondence from Ms. Morrow, a resident of Hamilton, requesting that Council forego their decision to appeal the Ontario Court ruling regarding the Canda Post community mailbox matter to be received. We have 5 added notices of motion. 8.1, amendment to the mandate of the Hamilton Port Authority, the City of Hamilton Liaison Committee. 8.2, Hess Street South Sewer Connections. 8.3, Canada Day Tent Party, Special Occasion Permit for Liquor License. 8.4, Inclusion Policy and Traditional First Nations Ceremonies. And 8.5, Lease Extension on the Rotary Club of Dundas. There's also one added item of private and confidential regarding the Ontario Nurses Association Collective Agreement.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve then the agenda as amended? Moved by Pearson, seconded by Johnson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Hearing none, members of council, I have a motion on the minutes of June the 10th, 2015 as presented. Moved by Pearson, seconded by Councillor Vanderbeek. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And there are communications 5.1 through 5.8. Let's go through them one at a time. On item 5.1. Carried. Carried. Item 5.2. Carried. 5.3. Carried. 5.4. Okay, moved and second. All in favor? Carried. 5.5. Carried. 5.6. 5.7. And 5.8. On 5.8, Councillor Collins. 5.7. Go ahead.
Sir, I want to refer this to the Governance Committee. As I understand it, the board was not happy that we elected to nominate a city employee to the Farmers Market Board, and I don't believe that's in the terms of reference as it relates to disqualifying someone from sitting on the committee. So I'd like to refer this to governance for some discussion prior to accepting it. Okay,
thank you. So there's a recommendation. You're saying that you're not going to recommend that it be accepted and referred. Just receive it and refer it. Okay, Councillor Farr.
Yeah, just for the record, and I appreciate where the mover is going. The members of the board, not the board. I am a member of the board, and so too is Councillor Pasuda. There are other city members on the board. Specific members of the board had an issue, valid or not. I'm glad we're taking this approach, but it wasn't a decision of the board, more a specific number of people on that board, if you don't mind. Offering that for the record.
Right, okay. So it's going to be just received and then referred, not accepted. Councillor Maroon.
Just for a point of clarity, my understanding was that it was the actual official, but that's not the case?
Apparently not. I think we heard that pretty clearly. It's not. This is an individual offering, I think, as I understand it, a resignation as a result of some consternation on the board.
Oh, I have. Well, then I'm not even sure why we're referring it. We should just receive it. Said that, I'll support.
I'm in your hands. So it was a request to receive and refer to the governance committee. Yep. Okay. Didn't mean selection. You meant governance. Yep. That's fair. Seconded by Councillor Farr or Councillor Green. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. On item 5.8. All in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor Green, may I have a motion on the communications, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Marula, the communications 5.1 through 5.8 be approved as follows. On item 5.1.
We've done all of those, so just
we're good?
Bulk motion on the whole lot of them, thank you. So on the motion that we approve all of the communications items, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Ferguson, may I have a motion on moving into the committee of the whole for consideration of the reports?
You sure may. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brenda Johnson, the council move into committee of the whole for consideration of committee reports.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Deputy Mayor Green, would you lead us through committee reports, please? I think you want to come up here and do that because you're oh, I see. You were coming. No, we're good. You're heading the right direction. All good.
You're on to the Public Works Committee presenting report 15-009 and respectfully recommends item 1. We have Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and I certainly just want to compliment with regards to item 1. This is the 2015 special events requiring road closures. This had to do with special events around Pan Am, etc. There was a special funding pocket of money that was put aside, and I'm proud to say that the item B is a slide in the city, and it's a temporary closure of Macklin Street between Dufferin and Longwood Road scheduled for Saturday, August the 29th, 2015. I think this will be the first in Hamilton. And I'm pleased to announce, I think that Mark is here, a resident of my ward, Mark Gallant, very young, 29-year-old, very, very young entrepreneur. Very proud of this young man. He actually began the Festival of Colour in Midsummer Night's Dream in your ward in Gage Park several years ago. Has been honored with front page recognition in The Spectator every year, and very proud, and I know this is going to be a fabulous event, and I'm hoping that I will be able to attend. So congratulations to Mark, and certainly citizens of Hamilton. I hope they'll be able to get out, because if anyone knows, Councillor Aidan Johnson, well, that's the most beautiful area at Coots Paradise, and what a perfect place to put a water slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pearson. Certainly looking forward to that tremendous amount of fun. Hoping that all councillors will be present for a good slide. On item 1, all those in favor? Item 2? Item 3? And item 4? We have Councillor Ferguson on item 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I could also bring this up under Audit and Administration Report, item 4, which is the audit report on the safe drinking. And this is directing us to file with the provincial government our results. To quote the auditor, this is a good news story, that we've got an outstanding reporting system and measurement system, and are providing our community with good, clean, safe drinking water, which is probably one of the biggest jobs we have as a council, is to ensure that. And so I just want to offer formally my congratulations to our Public Works General Manager, Terry Davis, and of course Dan McKinnon and all the water wastewater staff, because we can feel proud of the fact that we've got a good news story in our water, and that we are making sure that our citizens remain healthy with the water that's delivered to their homes.
Excellent comments, Councillor Ferguson. Are there any other comments on item 4? All those in favor on item 4? Item 5? Item 6? Item 7? Item 8? Item 9? On item 10, we have Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. I want to thank Council. We had referred this back to the Public Works Committee, and we had some discussions, gave me an opportunity to ask staff a number of questions. And again, the reason I'm speaking is I want to thank my colleagues to give me that opportunity.
Any other comments on item 10? All those in favor? On item 11? Item 12? Councillor Marula, may I have a motion to approve the report and receive the information section as presented?
You may indeed, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Collins that the 9th report of the Public Works Committee be adopted as presented and the information section received.
Heard the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Excellent. On to the Board of Health. Item 6.2, presenting report 15-006 and respectfully recommends on item 1. Perhaps was that we're good. Okay. On item 1? Item 2? Item 3? We have Councillor Maria Pearson on item 3.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. On item 3, this was the report that was with regards to the trends and responses to rats and mice issue in Hamilton. That I think all of us are being affected in all the wards, and certainly it was a great presentation, information brought forward. But a reminder, I guess this is the time to remind the viewing public that I know in the area in Ward 10 where I'm having the issues, it's the matter of people not properly storing their compost, not properly feeding, putting food out for various animals, being bird feeders, being cat food and dog food, that unfortunately draws these rodents into the neighborhood. So just to caution and the residents, if you stop doing this, it helps a lot. I'm not going to say it will eliminate it, but it will help a lot. So I just want to put that on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. We have Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And not that the cartoon that was done of me a number of years ago by the Spectator with a bunch of rats following means I have any expertise on it in any way. But I want to say that I did have a pretty chronic issue on the West Mountain during the times when they were smoking out the sewers and that. And one of the things I learned is not just the water and the food and the bird feed and all those kinds of things, but if in fact you have wood stored or other areas that create a good shelter or home for the rats, they will use it. So clearly there, between the amount of development that's taking place, and there's a lot of development, and I know in Stony Creek and certainly on the mountain and Bimbrook and et cetera, that will have some impact on their homes and drives them into other locations and probably urban locations, creating a problem. And the best we can do is to, other than what staff has been directed, is to ensure that we address those issues that can attract them or provide food and shelter, so to speak, for the rodents. So I just wanted to highlight that, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate the highlight. Councillor Whitehead, are there any other questions regarding the rats? We have Councillor Ferguson.
Just one comment. I think it's important when the public hears us talking about this rat problem in the city that the Board of Health or the Health Department ensured us we're no worse than any other city. We have the Pan Am Games coming in 3 weeks, and we don't want this perception out there. That, and so, to be clear, our problems are no worse than any other large city.
I certainly appreciate that, Councillor Ferguson, and if you don't mind to editorialize on that, I believe they said that one rat equals an infestation, so anything over one is an infestation based on the clinical definition, so certainly appreciate you highlighting that. Are there any other questions regarding the public health report? Item number 3, all those in favor, carried. Item number 4, carried. Item number 5, Mayor Eisenberger, may I please have a motion to approve the report and receive the information section as presented?
Thank you, Councillor. You certainly may. The 6th report of the Board of Health be adopted and the information section received. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Judy Partridge.
All those in favor? Excellent. And item 6.3, the Planning Committee presents report 15-010 and respectfully recommends item number 1, item number 2, item number 3, item number 4, item number 5, item number 6, item number 7. On item number 7, we have Councillor Johnson.
Yep, thank you very much. Through you, Deputy Mayor, I'd just like to ask Steve some questions. I was at the Planning Committee agenda and did not make it to this particular meeting. And at the agenda, it was very clearly stated that we would not be talking about specific properties at this level of comments. I see in number 7 that there is a specific property, which happens to be in my ward, to direct staff to recommend that that property comes out of the Greenbelt. I've got 150 other property owners who were told not to come to this meeting by both staff and our office because this was not going to be property specific. So, Steve, is there something that this was recommended at the meeting? How is it that we're allowing one property in, but we're not looking holistically at the entire plan and looking at all the other properties that are trying to come to the feeding trough?
Mr. Robichaud.
You, Mr. Chairman, to the councillor. There were 2 properties that were identified by way of a motion introduced by respective members of the Planning Committee identifying properties to be removed out of the Greenbelt plan or for identification for discussion with the province to remove out from the Greenbelt plan. That's how those properties were included in the Planning Committee report tonight.
And through you, Chair, to Steve, not to put you on the spot, is this because a delegate came to the Planning Committee and said, please take our lands out of the...
To you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, one of the properties that was identified in 50 Road area was in response to a delegation by the property owner's planning consultant. The other property was identified by the ward council as a result of a series of ongoing discussions over the last 2 years about opportunities for redeveloping that property on Green Hill Avenue. But it was in response, as I understand, in response to the delegation relating to the property in 50 Road that began the discussion about removing lands from the Greenbelt plan.
Okay, Steve, thank you. And can you give us a guesstimate of how many other property owners want to have their lands out of the property, out of the Greenbelt? Just ballpark it.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, sir, I would not have an estimate as to the number of property owners that would be looking. I mean, I think more property owners would be interested in being removed from the Greenbelt plan area than being added to the Greenbelt plan area.
Sorry, that was my question, sorry. And if I said it wrong, I apologize. How many other property owners do we know of right now, off the top of your head, who would love to have their properties taken out of the Greenbelt?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I think a lot of the property owners within the lower Stony Creek area, in terms that were originally brought in through the Scooby urban boundary expansion and were subsequently put into the Greenbelt plan area, as well as there are other development interests that are acquiring properties within the Greenbelt area that I'm sure will be making delegations or deputations to the province and or to the city to have their lands removed when we come forward with a recommendation on that matter in the fall.
Thank you, Steve. And through you to Steve. Steve, we told the property owners to hold off because this is not specific to property ownership. This is holistic. This is a high-level commenting period. What do we tell property owners now? What's the date that they should be coming and asking for their consideration of their properties?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, the plan going forward is sort of a two-step process.
Right.
So staff will be working over the course of the summer to develop criteria to which evaluate which properties should be added or removed to the Greenbelt plan, and then having consultation with stakeholders and the general public on those criteria, and that will occur either late summer or early fall. And then we will follow up with consultation with the general public and or landowners as we apply those criteria and identify areas either for refinements to the Greenbelt plan area, areas that we would be looking at maybe for inclusion in the Greenbelt, or areas that should be removed from the Greenbelt plan in order to accommodate the projected growth under the Places to Grow plan.
So through you, Deputy Mayor, to Steve, one last question. There is a process in place that the staff have set up that is inclusive of all the stakeholders who want to come to the trough to figure out whether they want in or out. The staff will have a look at everybody all at the same time. So there is a process that's been planned out in place, correct?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that is correct. So it's a two-step process. The first step is to have consultation on the evaluation criteria. Have we got it right in terms of how we would evaluate which properties should be identified to be added or removed from the Greenbelt plan area? And then the second step in that process would be consultation on the application of those criteria to properties to be identified for either inclusion or removal from the Greenbelt plan area.
And thank you for that. And through you, Deputy Mayor, I cannot support this whatsoever. This is really basically allowing people to jump the queue. It's whether or not I agree or disagree with these properties, there's a process in place. We told all the other stakeholders out there to hold off. We're going to do it properly, and we're going to have a process in place. I really think that this is going to jump up and bite us in the ass later. We need to stick to the process. I'm sorry, but this is really irritating. We can cherry pick some people, but everyone else is now have to go in herds. And you know what? I'm sorry. I can't support this, and I hope my colleagues will take a hard look at this and realize the staff have got a process in place. Let's stick to the process, please, folks, and let all the property owners go there and all play on the same level playing field. We're not going to play favorites. So those are my comments. I cannot support this, and I hope that my colleagues will follow suit.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. On the speakers list, we have Councillors Whitehead, Farr, and Partridge. Councillor Whitehead, the floor is yours. Oh, the finger in the air? Okay. So we will remove that. Councillor Whitehead has removed himself from the speakers list. We will move to Councillor Farr, followed by Councillor Partridge.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I know you were there, and unfortunately, Councillor Johnson, the ward councillor, wasn't. So I'll take full responsibility moving the motion, but just maybe it'll be helpful to put you in that committee meeting if you haven't had a chance to watch the live stream, Councillor. Having moved it, and in reality, knowing that you watch these things a lot closer in your ward than I do, I turned to Steve for some direction only based on two recommendations from the delegation. There was really only that one delegation that I can recall with respect to this. So, and from my own recollection of the debate as it related to that particular development, of which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we had already approved, minus some, or we already debated, sorry, minus some sewer lateral work. So, through you to Steve, I recollect from committee turning to you and asking for guidance on the two recommendations specific to the motion to move this particular item forward. I thought you said something to the effect of it would be recurring in September anyway. Through you, Chair, correct or not, or maybe you could just offer guidance as to what occurred there in terms of my moving forward with the motion that was unanimously, I think, approved in Planning Committee with respect to what the delegate was requesting.
So just a procedural question. Is this on the question, or you want to be second-time speakers, Councillor Johnson? Sorry, Councillor Farr, I had somebody at Councillor Johnson. It's not on the question? Okay. Oh, you're on the speaker's list. I just didn't know if that was on this particular point, if it was a point of order. Mr. Robichaud, would you care to provide Councillor Farr with some guidance as per the directions that were provided at Planning Committee?
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Sorry, excuse me. The lands that were the subject of the public delegation had been initially included in the Lower Stony Creek Urban Boundary Expansion Study Area for redesignation from rural to urban. And that official plan amendment was approved by Council, and it was subsequently appealed to the OMB by the province. During that appeal process, the province released the draft Greenbelt Plan and then the final Greenbelt Plan, and the lands that were subject to the public delegation were brought into the Greenbelt Plan and taken out of the Lower Stony Creek Urban Boundary Expansion Study Area. So on that basis, Council had previously decided that these lands were worthy of consideration to be brought into the urban area for future urban development. So they weren't in any way sort of moving contrary to a previous planning decisions. It was a result of a negotiated settlement with the province in reaching a compromise on the Greenbelt Plan designations within the lower city, which ultimately allowed for moving forward with the Fruitland-Winona secondary plan. From that perspective, removing them from the Greenbelt Plan does not bring them into the urban area. They would still have to go through a comprehensive planning review process to identify our land needs, land supply, and then identification of alternatives, servicing strategies, financial considerations, and then if they met all of those criteria, then they would be worthy of bringing forward a recommendation that those lands be redesignated to allow for urban-type uses on those properties. As you did indicate, Councillor Farr, and as I indicated earlier, we are looking at a process beginning during July, August, and carrying forward into the fall for public consultation on both the evaluation criteria and the application of those evaluation criteria to identify those areas for inclusion in any future urban boundary expansion should those lands be removed from the Greenbelt Plan area. So we are still looking at a very comprehensive, integrated planning process that has to play out before any decisions can be made to allow for urban-type development to occur on any lands that are currently outside of the urban area.
Fair enough. And again, in a much more detailed way, my colleague from the ward is more understanding of the minutiae of all the developments and prospective developments. So I just recall turning to you, asking the question that the delegate asked, which, as we know, delegates can't ask directly of staff, and that was to you, Steve, through you, Chair, basically is what they're requesting with respect to the removal, something that's feasible, and I thought I heard in a short answer, yes, from you at Planning Committee.
Mr. Robichaud?
Through Mr. Deputy Mayor, in terms of the appropriateness of these lands for future urban-type uses, because of their location, they're contiguous to the urban area. There's logic for consideration to incorporate these lands into the urban area. It's really, I think, that what the question is what is the appropriate process for that decision-making exercise. But because they are essentially would result in the rounding out and completion of that neighborhood, sort of in Lower Winona, adjacent to 50 Road, and allow for the future urbanization of 50 Road, there is logic in looking at those lands to be brought into the urban area. So I think from the applicant's perspective and the argument the applicant was making, there was logic to that argument. And I was thinking on that rationale of why we said, and they were previously identified for urbanization, there was logic in those lands being identified for urban type uses in the long run.
Councillor Farr, okay. On the first-time speakers list, we have the chair of the Planning Committee, Councillor Partridge. Councillor Partridge, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And Steve, thank you for your answers. As chair of the Planning Committee, when we dealt with the motion, and I did turn to staff and ask if there were any issues at all with what was being requested. But, you know, that's all spilt milk, let's say. Thank you. So we are where we are, but I think it's very important, the points that, through you, Deputy Mayor, that Councillor Johnson does raise, knowing her ward, and I'm certainly not in support of anybody jumping the queue if that's indeed what has happened here. So through you, perhaps to clerks, I'm wondering if we can possibly table this until the fall when it's dealt with within the usual process. If tabling would be the right thing to do, or somehow we could work with this to put it into the process that's going to happen in the fall as opposed to approving it and dealing with it now. Through you, Deputy Mayor.
Madam Clerk, for the points of procedure regarding this issue.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through you, a referral to the Planning Committee would also be in order so they could all be dealt with at the same time.
All right, so I would like to move that motion if Councillor Johnson would like to second it. Okay. You have that? Can we do that now, or do you want it after the speakers list?
There is a speakers list. We have.
If you come back to me then?
Most certainly.
Okay.
At that time, on the first-time speakers list, we have Councillor Pearson.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you to Mr. Robichaud. Can I just ask, and I understand the councillor's concern of this, but all we're saying in the recommendation was to remove the lands. It doesn't say the timeline. It doesn't say how the process is going to be. Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Robichaud, could you enlighten as far as what staff anticipated happening with this particular recommendation?
Mr. Robichaud, some enlightenment, please.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. First of all, the commenting period is technically closed on the first round of public consultation on the provincial plan review. Comments were requested, I believe, at the end of May, so we had provided preliminary staff comments, and then we advised the province that we would be following up with an official council position. So they're not receiving any comments right now based on those discussion papers that have been previously released by the province. This recommendation we would forward to the province so that they're aware of what council's position is vis-a-vis the staff comment that were previously provided and any additional changes. But you are correct. It would simply be identifying these lands at the provincial level for consideration for removal from the Greenbelt plan, but they would still have to go through a planning process to allow for urban-type development to occur on those lands before anything could happen on them.
And through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, thank you for that. And I'll support the tabling, but I just want to clarify, as far as the process. So by this going forward, do we anticipate that this is a reflection that this particular property is going to be before any of the others that are reviewed? And can it possibly jeopardize any of the others in this area?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, they wouldn't be included at this time in the provincial consultation, which is already closed. Simply that they're being recommended for removal. We would still have to do the work at our end to basically develop the business case to the province for the removal or any alterations to the Greenbelt plan, and that they would be incorporated in developing that business case that would be presented to the province for any adjustments to the Greenbelt boundaries at this point in time. That's the way I would interpret this recommendation on a go-forward basis.
But the comment that they jumped the queue is, will there be a queue now that they've been put to the top as opposed to the other properties in that area that still have a Greenbelt restriction?
Through you, Madam Chairman, no, because they would, or Mr. Chairman, they would still have to make sense to be included. So we would come back and say that these are being identified, but they would still be evaluated against all the other lands, whether in Lower Stony Creek or other parts of the city, for any alterations to the Greenbelt plan boundaries to remove them from the Greenbelt plan.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure for the process that all we did was receive this and put it back in front of the province, but nothing is going to happen until all the review is done, including all the other Greenbelt land in that area. Just want to be sure that's the process, and I'll certainly entertain the tabling motion. Thank you.
We have on the second-time speakers list, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. And sorry, just to be clear that it's very, very, in my opinion, it's very straightforward. Staff be directed to recommend that these lands come out of the Greenbelt. Folks, there are hundreds of thousands of acres in the Greenbelt. 65% of my ward is in the Greenbelt. And if we knew that at Planning Committee that we were going to give staff direction of which properties to look at and which not, this whole place would have been filled. Hundreds and hundreds of property owners want their property out of it. Some want back in, some want in, but most of them want out. So this place would be full. I'm only arguing that it's premature, that we don't direct staff to which properties yet until everybody comes in and goes through the process. That's all I'm asking for. I will second the deferral motion that it goes back to staff and it brings forward in the fall with everyone else so that everyone's on the same playing field. Yes, these properties were initially in the urban boundary. OMB took them out. They're in the Greenbelt. They were never approved for any type of development. So they've always been in the Greenbelt since 2005. And as I said before, There's there's hundreds of thousands of acres that are involved in this. And my argument is it's premature. It goes in the queue like everyone else. It doesn't mean it's prioritized or anything like that, but it just goes on the same level playing field as all the other property owners out there that are chomping at the bit to get out of the green belt. So thank you very much. I will second that motion, and I hope everyone supports it.
So if we could, just for the point of procedure, Councillor Partridge, if you would please reread your motion.
Yes, thank you. And so the motion is actually, if I understood to clerks, it was to refer this back to the Planning Committee for consideration with all of the other properties in the fall. So if that works, and Councillor Johnson will second that, and if I could just speak to it for a moment, it very much comes down to the optics of this. You know, and I absolutely hear what the councillor is saying. I think I have 70% of my ward is in the Greenbelt, and there are people who want out of the Greenbelt. So this process has to be followed fairly and allowed for everyone to be able to come forward. So I have no problem referring this back to planning, and I'm very pleased to do so. Seconded by Councillor Brenda Johnson. Thank you.
So on the motion, we have Councillor Farr to speak to the motion.
Supportive of the motion, and if it helps the ward councillor, again, you know, I'm watching a delegation in Brenda's ward where, you know, there's so much has happened with respect to the former Scooby, ultimately the Fruitland-Winona plan, 1, 2, 3, probably a week's worth of hours worth of delegates, which obviously we made a lot of headway in on the last term of council. And my understanding, and I'll just get it confirmed through you to Steve, that this parcel falls within that Fruitland-Winona plan.
Robichaud?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, these lanes are adjacent, immediately adjacent to the Fruitland-Winona secondary plan. Because they're outside of the urban area, they were not included in the Fruitland-Winona secondary planning area. They are located between 50 Road and the urban designated area at the far easterly limits of the Fruitland-Winona secondary plan area.
Helpful, thank you, and absolutely supportive of the motion, and appreciate where the ward councillor is coming from. Thank you.
So you've heard the motion. It is on the referral motion, moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Partridge, I understand you have an amendment to item 8C and 8D.
I absolutely do. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And this is on the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee report. It is a housekeeping issue, and you do have it in front of you actually on your yellow sheets. And it is that item 8 of the Planning Committee report 15-010 respecting Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee report 15-005 be amended by A, deleting the recommendation in subsection C in its entirety and inserting the following therein, and it's all listed before you. As I said, it is a housekeeping issue. It is moved by myself, and if I can ask Councillor Maria Pearson to second it, as she's on the Heritage Committee.
Members of Council, you've heard the motion for the amendments to item 8C and D. All those in favor? Carried. On to item number 9. All those in favor? On item number 10, Councillor Partridge, I understand you have an amendment for item number 10.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And actually, on the next 3 items, I do have amendments. But first, I need to ask through you to the rest of my council colleagues, if there is going to be any discussion on these 3 items, then we will need to move in camera. If not, then I would like to carry on and move the motion. So, Mr. Deputy Mayor, if you could just ask my colleagues.
Members of Council, you have heard the request from Councillor Partridge that you please review items 10, 11, and 12. If there are any discussion points of this nature, we have to move into camera. Failing that, Councillor Ferguson.
Can I just ask if item 10 is in Ancaster or 12?
Through Mr. Robichaud, is item 10 in Ancaster? That is the DiCenzo Construction Company.
No, Steve, he has a development going on in Garner Road. That's not it.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, no, this is not in Ancaster. This would be property, I believe, is in Councillor Whitehead.
Stonechurch.
Okay. Councillor Whitehead's ward.
Yeah.
For clarification, Councillor Ferguson, it's 305 Stonechurch Road West.
Yeah. And if I can just add for clarity, Mr. Deputy Mayor, these 3 items The committee did not see a reason to go in camera as the ward councillors were all in support at that time. But I just need to clarify that there's no further discussion needed on these, or we do need to move in camera. If not, I'll go ahead and move the motions. Mr. Deputy Mayor?
We have a motion on the floor, assuming that we don't have any other further discussion. All those in favor? Carried. That's on items 10, item 11, and item 12. Madam Clerk, is that captured, or they need to be individual?
And is seconded by Councillor Robert Pasuta. Thank you.
Yep, we're okay.
With thanks to the Planning Committee, I had 2 items on that the Planning Committee supported, and I wasn't there, but I certainly appreciate. I think I did relay it to 1 or 2 councillors that had no issues. So thank you again.
Excellent. Councillor Partridge, may I please have a motion to approve the report as amended and receive the information section? Councillor Pearson.
Sorry, Mr. Deputy Mayor, my apologies. We went through really fast, and only because Councillor Farr made quite an issue of it at the Planning Committee. Can I please be recorded as opposed to the recommendation on item 2?
Item 2. So that is the appeal to the OMB. So, Madam Clerk, you have heard the recorded opposition to item 2. Please let the record show. So we have the motion as presented by the Planning Committee Chair, Councillor Partridge, to approve the report as amended and receive the information section, inclusive of the opposition as noted by Councillor Pearson. All those in favor? Carried. On to item 6.4, which is the General Issues Committee presenting report 15. That's quick. Okay. We have, that's good. Sorry, I was on a roll there. Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you. So you just read out the motion that I believe I was supposed to move.
I thought you moved it.
I hadn't put it on the table yet. We were still talking about the 3 items. All right, so we did vote on the 3 items, and they were all carried. And now if I can put my...
Madam Chair of the Planning Committee, I would appreciate your correction.
All right, and it's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robert Pasuta, that the 10th report of the Planning Committee be adopted as amended and the information section received. Thank you.
Members of Council, you have heard the motion from the Chair, Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Pasuta. All those in favor? Carried. I stand corrected. Maybe I should grab a seat. We have the General Issues Committee report. Sure? I don't know. I think I heard one over here. We have the General Issues Committee presenting report 15-013 and respectfully recommends item 1. We have Councillor Whitehead, first-time speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was an excellent report. So I'm just going to ask Janice, for the purpose of public consumption and to remind this council some of the highlights of what has been accomplished through the legal department as a result of this report, as reflected in this report.
Sure. Through the Deputy Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to boast about our wonderful Legal Services Department, who are taking on a greater deal of work in-house and really increasing their capacity and helping to control the cost of going outside for external legal counsel by developing greater expertise in a variety of areas. So you will notice that the trend line for our cost of external legal counsel is down by over $1 million a year over the last several years. The chart just really shows the last 3 years, and that's because of the really expert lawyers that we have working very hard in-house, and we are intentionally doing that. We're trying to become, as much as possible, a very full-service legal service department and be very judicious in what work we take out to the street. And when we do take work out to the street, we also impose pretty strict budget expectations, and we try to ensure that our external legal counsel always live within those expectations. So you will see that the trend line for the costs are coming down. The overall costs are a little bit down when you add the internal and the external, but what really you see is a huge increase in capacity in the inside and a very strong trend line down, so that our external legal counsel costs now are this year to date under $200,000 so far. So we will continue to report to you and tell you how hard our lawyers are working at trying to do the work of this city.
I appreciate, I want to give our Chief Solicitor the opportunity to boast a bit, because it's something that we should congratulate her and her department. They've been frugal. They are utilizing and making decisions judiciously. I know we'll deal with one of those issues later on in this council meeting, but it reflects the fact that there's been some significant savings in regards to since she's taken over the leadership within that division. So I want to thank Janice and her team.
Are there any other speakers on item number 1? All those in favor? Item number 2. Councillor Farr, the floor is yours.
Just quickly want to thank staff for this update regarding the Canada Street bidirectional cycle track. We had a really good conversation on both sides of the issue. We reflected on the original debate. We reflected on a wonderful petition of over 2,000 names that was very helpful in getting us to what is most innovative, what is unique to probably Ontario, if not Canada, in terms of size and scope for a separated bidirectional cycle track along Cannon. It is getting tons of use, more and more happening. And on this, the day, unfortunately, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that we saw not one but two, we heard of two accidents at intersections, one in yours and the other in my ward. You know, these are, fortunately, folks are okay. These are part of a pilot, and this is a 3-year pilot. And we're going to work everything out. And I just see more and more people utilizing the Cannon Street bicycle track, and even if they're not appreciating that it's there. And certainly this is the first of many updates coming from our qualified staff. And so from John Mater on down in PW, thank you very much, and I look forward to continued work with them and implementation of whatever's necessary to continue and grow on this success. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, would you please take the chair? Thank you very much. And on that, I think it's also worth noting that there are indeed car accidents that happen every single day on our roads, on various streets throughout our city. So reflective of the two that recently just happened, it is a common occurrence on all vehicular traffic. But I do have a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff. I do ride the Cannon bike track quite frequently. How often do we have the counters on? I thought maybe perhaps there were counters on there all the time, but I was along today and there were not any counters on there, at least in the sections that I was on from Sherman to James Street.
Jerry Davis. Through the mayor, what I'll do is I'll follow up. I don't know the exact the timeline for the counters. I know we're doing it because it's part of the annual reporting. So I'll get that information forward to the council by Friday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Davis, through you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate that. I'm sure statistically there is a random sampling that you guys do on certain days and times, but gosh, there's a lot of riders out there today. It would have been a great day to get a count. So those are my comments on that.
Thank you, sir. Chair is back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Are there any other comments on item number 2? All those in favor? On item number 3? On item number 4? On item number 5? On item number 6? On item number 7? On item number 8? On item number 9? 10? Item 11? Item 12? We have Councillor Collins on item 12.
12 is the Bishop Ryan one, Mr. Chair, that you have in front of you?
12 is the surplus school property for Bishop Ryan. Mr. Collins,
I just wanted to thank staff for assisting with this over the last couple of years. As you know, and was mentioned at the committee, our recreation center at Sir Wilfrid Laurier is actually attached to the former Bishop Ryan School. And I just received a note earlier last week from recreation staff that, in fact, will need to close the recreation center for several months to disconnect the power source from the old Bishop Ryan site, as well as the fire alarms that are connected. Everything's fed through the former high school, and so to safely operate our rec center in the future, we'll need to make those disconnections, and that will happen over a period of several months. So I know that rec staff will be making the appropriate arrangements for rec users who are involved with programs at Sir Wilfrid Laurier to find programming at other facilities. So I did want to publicly mention that. I will be putting something through the community to let them know exactly the dates of closure and how the arrangements will be made for alternate facilities. but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to thank staff, both recreation, real estate, and others who've helped with the purchase.
Excellent, Councillor Collins. On item number 12, all those in favor? Item 13. Item 14. Item 15. Item 16. There was it. I thought I heard a different one. Item 17. Paper, rock, scissors. I'm going to go Whitehead Ferguson.
I was just trying to understand, because some people have concerns about dollars, and I don't think anyone's been more frugal around this table in regards to challenging expenditures. I'm going to have a question for Janice. The question I have for Janice is we've released the Superior Court former Superior Court judge advice on this matter. Can you just give us the highlights?
So through the Deputy Mayor, yes, the Honourable Ian Binney provided us with legal advice on this matter, and Council at General Issues Committee waived privilege on that legal opinion. So the legal opinion is publicly available, and that legal opinion is an opinion that supports, in fact, the view that I also hold, and then the lawyers working on this matter as well in our office hold, and that is that the municipality has a very strong case. The Honourable Ian Binney called it arguable. That's careful language from a careful former Supreme Court Justice. It is a very arguable case. It's a strong case that the municipality has the jurisdiction to regulate the road right-of-way, and that authority to regulate the road does not conflict with or in any way cause Canda Post to be in conflict of their mandate in abiding by that municipal jurisdiction. So it is a very good, arguable case to go forward.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not sure if you want to be able to answer it, but you'll answer it in your own way. In the hearing that we had here, did you feel it was it was a fair decision by this particular judge?
Through the Deputy Mayor, I had many reports back from the lawyers who were both arguing the matter, and another staff or two who were in attendance, as well as many other people who were in attendance. And I would say that the impression given was that the court had a very clear sense of where he, of whose arguments he felt were the better arguments from very early on in the matter.
In fact, it's my understanding that we supplied a litany of pictures showing unsafe locations and gas lines being cut and so forth. What did the judge do? Do you remember, or did you get advised by your staff on what he did with all that evidence?
Through the chair, Ms. Bukowski.
So, as I say, I wasn't present in court, so what I'm providing to through the Deputy Mayor is really just what I was advised by those who were present in court, and it all is all of the evidence, as you can appreciate, is part of now the record and is being has been ordered in order for us to proceed with the appeal. So it will all be, all of that record of what was submitted will be before the Court of Appeal on an appeal. But certainly my understanding is that the court gave short shrift to the evidence of problematic placements that was put before the court, and did not found it unpersuasive.
Thank you. In fact, I think he indicated it wasn't a big enough sample. I mean, he didn't. In fact, I don't think he even addressed it in his award. So, have you had any discussions, and can you give us the latest with FCM?
Through the chair.
Through the chair.
Yes, through the Deputy Mayor. We have had conversation with legal counsel for FCM, who provides them with their expert legal advice with respect to regulating roads, etc. And that is Stéphane Chabot. And he has indicated that they are very supportive of and will be seeking instruction from their board with respect to supporting Hamilton in this matter, whether by means of possibly seeking intervener status or otherwise.
Thank you. My next question is, in the report, I think they were offering $50 per site, which I think equates to around $20,000. We had had a report that suggested that the actual cost for staff to do the due diligence was closer to $200 per site, which would come out to about $80,000. So there's a $60,000 difference between what Canda Post believes the cost is and what we have determined the cost to be. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Appreciate that. Well, Mr. Chair, I just want to get that factual information out there, because the importance to me is that this council unanimously, I believe, supported the bylaw. I believe that this council unanimously supported the $200 cost as a result of the report that was provided by staff, and unanimously supported and provided the support for our legal to do what they need to do to ensure that they were protecting the interests of our community. The other piece, of course, that's even more important is that each and every one of us felt very comfortable that, from a principle point of view, this is not about politics. This is not about ending. I've always respected the right of Canda Post to make. In fact, I attended their AGM. I respect their decision to take home delivery away. This issue, to me, is a fundamental issue. And it is an issue of who is in the best position to decide a safe location within a community. Now, they say they've consulted. We did host a meeting on the mountain, and Councillor Val, myself, Councillor Connolly, and we did speak on behalf of Councillor Johnson at that. She couldn't make it, but we certainly made sure that she was felt in spirit. And I can tell you it was a packed house, and I can tell you the Canda Post refused to show up to be part of the consultation. I can also tell you that Newmarket, listening to the court case, and heard all about Canda Post bragging about consulting, asked for a 180-day consulting period. Canda Post refused. Newmarket asked, sorry, this is Richmond Hill. Richmond Hill asked, so it was Newmarket. Newmarket asked if they could have public information sessions for consultation purposes. Canda Post refused. So their definition of consultation is probably a bit shy of the truth, because certainly anyone in my that had dealings with Canda Post were told, made promises, or where they said they could move it. When it appeared, it ended up in the exact same location, next to driveways, creating blind spots on 4-lane arterial roads. Now, picture this one: a Mohawk Road. Your mailman's going to have to pull up in a live lane to load that super mailbox. Our residents are going to be encouraged to pull over in that live lane to pick up their mail. Now, worse, that one is bad. I'm going to give you another one. I got an 82-year-old woman that's got one less than 3 meters away from her edge of her driveway. And our bylaw has already confirmed it creates a complete blind spot. They won't remove it. They won't move it. Another example, and even worse, this is probably the worst one, I mean, because everyone can identify with this one because you drive it every day, is come down Queen Street Hill. So where the traffic converges, and you know what it's like on any day on the Queen Street Hill, especially at rush hour or otherwise, where it converges, they put a super mailbox. So I'm not sure what standards Canda Post is using, but certainly there aren't standards that are taking in consideration lighting. I know that Councillor Johnson's board, there's some significant issues on major highways and rural roads. I got people calling that will have to walk huge distances across huge fields just to get to their super mailbox. So there's lighting issues, safety issues, liability and risk issues. And that's a question I should have asked our lawyer, but there is concern that it's also going to open us up for a greater level of liability and lawsuits. What's happening in Newmarket, I believe it's going to happen here because the Ontario Disability Act, where there are super mailboxes that currently do not have approachable curbs and so forth for people with disabilities, or if they don't have sidewalks at all, will be forced to put sidewalks in those locations. That's one of the issues that Newmarket's taking on, is the significant cost that their community is going to incur as a result of other legislation that the municipality has to follow, and with the fact that the super mailboxes are now creating an exposure to them. So there's a huge number of issues from a cost perspective for this community, and that's why not only Hamilton, it's important to Hamilton, but it's important to municipalities across this country which have contacted us. We've also asked, part of the resolution was to ask the mayor to write a letter to a number of the municipalities to get financial support. I can tell you I've talked to two, and that's before we even formalized this, and they had indicated, get us a letter. We need to formalize the letter, and the councillors were going to go in with resolutions to request dollars to assist Hamilton with this particular appeal. I don't think there's going to be short of communities, once we formalize a decision on the appeal, to come to the table and mitigate those costs. FCM is having that discussion today with their board. And FCM has been fighting this right-of-way issue for years and years. Certainly when I was on the board, it was a significant issue then, and it's a significant issue now. So when you take all those factors into play, the other piece I need to mention is that Canda Post has been somewhat successful in trying to divide and conquer this community. Because back in the 80s, they went into new subdivisions with super mailboxes. And with this new super mailboxes, they fell under the Planning Act. And if we couldn't move the super mailbox, we could certainly address the amenities in the roadway that accommodate those super mailboxes. So for 30 years, there was a regulated process for the new neighborhoods. Now they're going to older neighborhoods. Now let's picture this for a minute. The older neighborhoods do not have they have mature urban forest. They don't have the same lighting standards. They don't have daylight corners. So there's a number of significant issues that differentiate the older neighborhoods from the neighborhoods that started 30 years ago. What has happened here is that some people, and of course I've talked to some of them from neighborhoods that have had their super mailbox for 20 years, they didn't realize the process that went to determine the location of those super mailboxes in those new subdivisions. And as soon as they recognized there was a process in place, they also recognized then that the people living in older neighborhoods are being treated as have-nots in this process. So you got the haves, and that's the people who currently have super mailboxes that went through a regulated process, and you have the have-nots that are living in older neighborhoods, and yet there's no process in place other than the bylaw that we put forward. And it's a pretty reasonable bylaw. One, the cost, and I believe it is negotiable, but it's the best efforts by our staff to determine cost. And that's the cost that they incur. They don't receive, and our taxpayers are on that hook for that $60,000 difference. Let's be clear. We fold the tent tonight, we're going to be picking up a $60,000 additional cost. The second thing is the regulation. The bylaws are very similar to bylaws that we've enforced for years. In fact, we've had bylaws dealing with right-of-way since pre-Confederation, before Canda Post, as a corporation existed. And this issue really is fundamental in regards to what we do around this chair, and that is to ensure that we have a livable, safe community for people to live. These regulations is about safety, and I would ask my colleagues to reach in and understand this is a principled argument, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that ample discussion. We now have Councillor Ferguson, followed by Councillor Marula, followed by Councillor Partridge, followed by Councillor Pearson. Councillor Ferguson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I certainly understand the passion that Councillor Whitehead has for this. And, I too support it. As he said, it was unanimous to take to the courts to try to get a reasonable outcome. And like now, we were told we had a very good chance. And but we lost miserably. And it's quite common, from my experience here, is that outside counsel will tell you you've got an arguable case. Then they send you a bill for a few $100,000 and you go, sorry about that, we lost. And you know, there's one I'd love to talk about, but it was camera, so I can't. But there was some other cases that are public. Remember the toboggan guy? Remember the sidewalk shift person? Remember the landfill site with the methane collection contractor? Does anybody remember the crossing guard? Does anybody remember the Red Oak Creek Expressway? And that's up against the federal government, who got endless amount of lawyers who don't seem to have any political oversight, don't ever talk settlement. They just keep dragging this on. And so I'm very skeptical in the cost too, that it'll be like we've experienced in the past, running out of control. So I'm convinced that if somebody's going to fight this thing, it needs to be a global fight, and let FCM take it up, or if Newmarket wants to take it on. Now we've done our part, and as I said, we lost miserably. And the federal government seems to be able to trump local municipal bylaws, and they were successful on this one. But it may be time to try to be more conciliatory with them. No, don't go stand in their excavations, but go up and try to reason with them and see if that's a solution that could work. But I'm just not on to throw any more money at a legal fight that we don't have a good track record of winning. We have other things to do with that money. And once again, I'm very sympathetic to the councillor and what he's trying to do. But I'm just, once again, not on to spend any more money. And when this comes to a vote, Mr. Chairman, I'd like a standing recorded vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. We have Councillor Marula, followed by Partridge, Pearson, and Duval. Councillor Marula, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And let me just say that with a great deal of respect for Councillor Whitehead, I understand the politics associated with this, and this is politics, because as it's defined, it's the activities associated with governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties, having or hoping to achieve power. So in essence, all political, and I get it. And I'd be the first one to say, if had it been in my neighborhood first, I would probably be doing exactly what Councillor White. The reality is this, that arguably, this is going nowhere. And, and we need to focus in on that reality. And the fact is, it's going to happen regardless of what we as a municipality are stating. Constitutionally, as everyone knows, we are burdened by provincial downloading. We are a creature of the province. We have no constitution. Real levels of power in this country are between the feds and the province. We only exist because the province allows us to exist. I think people forget that. And so to try to beat our drum and beat our chest and try to go after corporate entity of the Crown Corporation to the magnitude of Canda Post and spending even a 1 penny is nonsensical. So that's why I can't support it. And although I understand the politics of it, I don't understand the rational activity of it. Hence, I can't support those reforms. And I would hope that we could sit down with Canda Post. My understanding is, in discussing with our colleagues throughout the province and locally, that 75% of those contentious locations are being amended accordingly. So if people are bringing forward concerns to Canda Post, 75%, 3/4 of those concerns are being dealt with. So what we need to do is, rather than extreme on this and continue throwing really good money at something that ultimately is not going to come to fruition, we need to sit down with Canda Post. And I can recall when they were here, I specifically brought forward a motion, and one of the parts of that motion, clearly illustrated that they would absorb some of the cost. They haven't kept their word. Clearly, I asked them directly. It's recorded. It's transcribed. I asked them directly, would you be willing to basically accommodate us per dollar for making it revenue neutral? They agreed. They haven't done that. So the bottom line is this. This is a David and Goliath scenario. I'm not willing to risk any money of our general levy towards. We have enough to deal with respect to provincial downloading and other challenges. And what I would really love to see happen is to re-invite Canda Post on a level playing field, hearing the slate and saying, listen, if you're accommodating 3/4 of our requests based on community need, how can we better that number as opposed to bringing this into the courts? I can recall years ago, and half of our operating budget is related to provincial downloading. I can recall bringing forward a motion to sue the province, and all hell broke loose, like as if, I don't know, I was like the alien in this room. Now, we're in a situation that we can make this in a very intelligent manner rather than a political manner, and we're not actually asking people to come to the table. I understand the lawyers need work, and I understand that lawyers will continue to argue the fact that they should be representing an arguable point. But my argument is that this is arguably nonsensical, hence unaffordable, hence I can't support it. Thank you.
We have now Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And I want to thank my colleagues around the table. There's been some very good points here. I can't support this either. If there was any rationale to be put forward, it would be if other municipalities jumped on the bandwagon and said, here, Hamilton, let's pitch in some money and go at this together. And instead, they're all hiding behind us and saying, yeah, go ahead, Hamilton, let's see how you fare on this one, and maybe we'll come on side. So I am opposed to it, and quite honestly, I have to agree with the comments about, appealing any decisions, getting into court battles with the federal government. And Councillor Ferguson listed off quite a few of them. And, I think, again, they were all mistakes and are mistakes, and we need to revisit them. But I also think if this passes and it's approved, I think it's sending the wrong message if we're wanting to be conciliatory. I would suggest that perhaps there be a group that's formed with the mayor and perhaps a couple of other councillors that invites Canda Post to the table, and let's see if we can negotiate further with them. We're not getting anywhere by going through the courts, and I really think that we might have a better opportunity if we try and sit down with them and negotiate. Now, and yeah, they were before us. They haven't kept up their end of the bargain, and I get all that. And the good councillor in Ward 8 has done the good fight. He has gone above and beyond. And, I commend him for that. But at some point in time, we have to take a step back and take a look and say, now, what really is the best way to approach this? So I would encourage everyone around the table to give that some thought. And please record me as opposed. Thank you.
We have Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And I just wanted to ask first, if I could, through you to Janice Petkovsky, at the information session, the information we got, the city controls, and just remind me how far back it goes, and I remember conversations being made with regards to the British North America Act. Just verify that information.
Yes, through the Deputy Mayor, the municipal authority to regulate roads dates back to the Baldwin Act of 1849, which predates Confederation.
Thank you. Just want to be sure, because Councillor Whitehead, I think, tried to touch on that. I appreciate it, and that was information that was before us at General Issues Committee. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I am supporting this, and as I said that day, we need to send a clear message that we control our roadways and our right-of-ways. We all know, sitting around this table, we have had an ongoing issue with Bell Canada, another utility provider, and we're not getting anywhere. And if we don't send clear messages that we're going to stand up for our citizens in our community, Never mind what it's going to cost us in the legal fees now. Just imagine what it's going to cost us in liabilities, in insurance claims, risk management. We all know when we had presentations, I'm trying to remember about a year or so ago with regards to Bell Canada, the boxes that they've placed in front of creating complete site visibility issues. Now, instead of removing the box that was offending and causing a problem, they put the new box in as their telecommunications box, but they left the original one. And staff are having to deal with this. That's time and our taxpayers' time and money for staff to keep going after these issues. Breaking sidewalks, that's what I have in my ward. Cutting up roads, breaking sidewalks, torpedoing down, and I mean all the underground works that they do now with regards to fiber optics and everything else are underground. Well, if they're not coming through and getting the proper permits, and the residents have to understand this, they end up going through our infrastructure. And we had a fabulous presentation a couple of years ago, especially with regards to Bell Canada, where they actually torpedoed through sanitary sewer pipes, storm sewer pipes. You know, they may not be a problem when they do it, but they will be a couple of years down the road, and that's what taxpayers are paying for when these things start going. So I stood by that and said, you know what, we need to be sure that we're protecting our citizens with regards to utilities, the placement of these amenities, and how they can affect residents on their own property. So I will be supporting this. We know these will all be coming into our neighborhoods. I mean, I'm ready for the fight, and I can't thank my colleagues, as I said that day around the table, Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Connolly. You know, they've started the fight, and I think we need to keep them.
Far, and then myself.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and Canda Post boxes. I'm really having trouble trying to find when we all stuck together and it was unanimous that we're going to take this fight on, that all of a sudden we're all going to be backing off because we got a few emails saying it's our money no more. But we want to waste it on other things, whatever's important to your board. What I'm trying to say here is that the mountain councillors, including Councillor Connolly, Councillor Johnson, okay, have been and experienced the problems that Canda Post has imposed on us. They were telling us they want to change the 5-year plan and stick it up there with no authority or no permission from the city. They were telling us they will consider this. That is not a factual truth. What they did is they met us and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go forward and we will have the last say. Said, whoa, there's a process to follow here. They said, well, you know what? We don't have to do that. We're Canda Post. So if that's the case, that they don't have to follow a process, and we have many residents who invested much, much money into their areas and now be imposed with a Canada mailbox sitting at the side of their house in front of their window, okay, I think is absolutely disgusting without having their that we're all here input tonight in. Still, because consultation months after months with Canda Post is not talking to you. It's notifying you. And then what happens is they don't want to take the blame, so they go through the councillor's office. They're saying, go through your city. People phone us. We're saying, well, we got no jurisdiction on this. This is Canda Post. And they give us a number, and then Canda Post says, I'm going to direct it to the department and get somebody to call them. Well, guess what happens? Sometimes they do call, sometimes they don't. And then sometimes when they make an agreement, they stick it back to the original one to begin with. And it's making people very frustrated. And they think there's some danger going on with their sight lines. Canda Post has ignored that. Canda Post has told them by letter that they're going to make sure they're going to, where possible, they told them we're going to stick it in lighting, accessible areas, okay, and we are going to make sure that it's in a safe place. Well, I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, maybe some of that's happened, but the majority of it, or say 30% of it, has not. So the ones that are saying, I don't want to fight the cost, which is about maybe $50,000 to $70,000, not the $200,000. The really cost is, if you don't want to fight them, that's fine. We'll just carry on. But you know what? This is the pilot program that they're doing up in the mountain. Because when it comes to the rest of your wards, please don't sit here and come back later on saying, you know what? My office is just beyond crazy. I got 50 to 60% of my work is being done because of Canda Post. Because you know why? I was afraid to take them on. That's what's going to happen. I don't know how much more to express this. This is not about stopping the mail. This is about them sticking something. And I'll be honest with you. Imagine your property right now, anywhere, even in Ancaster, sticking something that we have no control over and sticking it in front of Mayor or Councillor Ferguson's house. He's going to say, whoa, that's not going to happen. I'm going to get along with Canda Post for mine. I'm going to talk to them, see if I can get something done. And when they don't listen, what are you going to do? They have jurisdiction. So that's why, and I'm sorry, Councillor, I'm only using you as because I know some of your, Councillor Ferguson, you have the mailboxes already installed in there and they were already pre-planned. But the ones up in the old area of the mountain, there's little space. We have one, I could not believe it when I drove by the other day on East 32nd and Munn, right in front of 3 churches' windows. I bet you it's not even 5 feet apart from the church. I'm sure the church owner is not very happy about that. But they have their say. And they were supposed to put it around the other side. And when people complained, they said, okay, we'll move it and we'll put it to this side. Just a different side. It's a matter of who's going to complain and who's not. This is very, very important fight. This is about control of where the mailboxes are going to be located in a safe place. And the cost, when the people ask you for the accessible little road cuts and the street light put up, we have to take that burden of cost. We've accepted it. They're allowing you, they're saying, here's $50, that's all we think it's worth, goodbye. And when you have to put the no stopping signs in at $130 a cost, or the no parking signs, because people demand it, because people will start parking in front of those mailboxes, and then people will complain, they'll call your office again, I can't get into my mailbox because cars are parked there. Okay, the only way you eliminate it, new signs put up. Who's paying for this? It's not Canda Post. They raised the price of the stamp up 100%. They're taking the revenue and they're putting you with the liability of their cost of their plan. We have to really look at what's the really vision is, and that was they were going to save money and put it onto your back. So if they want to put them in, put them in. But pay for putting them in, and make sure you follow the process that this city has done to any other contractor out there or any other organization, that they have to follow the process when it comes to our road allowance. So I urge you all to reconsider about the cost, because the cost that you're talking about, a lawyer's bill, I'd rather pay for that cost, making sure I'm fighting for my taxpayers, because the future cost is going to be very alarming when you find out. You just haven't totaled it up yet. And the thousands of mailboxes they're putting in, and it's going to happen to a lot of them. So let's really give this some serious consideration of just saying, I don't want to tackle this on. Serious, serious problem that we have to protect our taxpayers going in the future. Thank you. And I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Duvall. We have Councillor Connolly, followed by Councillor Farr, myself, and Councillor Pasuda. Councillor Connolly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just going to respond to some of the answers I've heard around the table that I can't believe. It says we should reason with them. Every one of these councillors, the 4 of us, have been trying to reason with them, well, in my case, for 5 months, 6 months, as I've been on council. I can show you countless emails that say, look, let's get together, let's talk about this one, let's talk about that one, let's see if we can resolve it. Never, never, never have had a call back saying, okay, let's meet at such and such and let's try to resolve this. Never. I've got people complaining about blind spots in when they drive out of their driveway. If they're backing up onto the street, they can't see, and I've asked them to review it. I've never got an answer. So, you know, somebody said, one of the councillors, that 75% are being changed. You know, I think it's more like 0.75. You just got the decimal wrong. These guys don't want to talk to us. They don't want to work with us. You know, and I probably got the least number of complaints than the rest, and I think it's because of the size of my community. But I've got really concerns when we can't work together. come to the table, ask him to come to the table. We did ask him to come to the table. We had 200 people out at a meeting with the 4 councillors were there, and we asked them to come, and they refused. That's not working together. They just refused to come. I don't know why. We're pretty reasonable people. I don't think anything would have happened to them. But, you know, somebody mentioned it's a David and Goliath fight. I want to remind you, David won that fight. You know? So let's not forget that. But the biggest thing I can see is safety. Safety, and it's not, you know, you put it in and say, oh, that looks great. There's going to be, at the winter time, there's going to be big problems with snow. If you think all those mailboxes are going to be shoveled nice and clean for your constituents, you're smoking something that's not real. You know, absolutely. They're not going to be clean. They're going to be hard to get to. They're going to be complaints about people are parking in front of my house. I can't get out of my driveway. There's numerous complaints that are going to come in, and they're going to come to not only the 4 councillors, but they're going to come to every one of you guys, every one of the councillors in this area. And if it's Ancaster, if it's Waterdown, if it's the rest of the city, you're going to be overloaded with problems. You're going to be overloaded. And I think I don't know, I'm just speculating, in the downtown of the city, it's even harder to get boxes. So they're going to put them places you couldn't even realize that, oh, they would never put one there. There'll be one there, you know, and it's going to be that was David. He was calling back. He says, I'm with you, councillor. You know, so the lower city is going to have a harder time, I think, than even the mountain, trying to find spaces for these things. And if you don't have the opportunity to work with these guys, and that's all we're trying to do, work with them, so it's a fair and equitable position that we're putting the boxes in. You're going to be so busy next year, and the next year, I'm not sure if it's next year or the following year they're going to do the rest of the city. But guys, beware. I really hope you can support this. We have went to war on the courts for things less than this, but this really believe that we have a good chance of winning because it's a safety issue. We're not, and I want to say that again, we're not trying to stop the delivery of mail. Like we're not supporting house-to-house mail delivery. We're supporting the positioning of these super boxes. So please reconsider if you're thinking of voting no for this, and support us, and let's do the good fight. Thank you.
Well played, Councillor Connolly. Well played, sir. Yeah, Councillor Farr, followed by myself, followed by Councillor Pasuta. Councillor Jason Farr, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yeah, intriguing, as always, when we talk about this debate. For me, it's been very clear for some in the public, unfortunately, because some in the media tend to kind of jumble it up and turn it into, well, if we support Whitehead, then do you really think you're going to lose community mailboxes, and really strongly trying to show resistance to what Councillor Whitehead and his colleagues on the mountain and Councillor Connolly are trying to receive support from all of us on here tonight is exclusively at this point something that affects them concretely. And I'm baffled. You know, I heard it on the radio last week, and I was just fuming. And my wife was in the car too, and I said, "This guy doesn't know what he's talking about." And his own radio station was actually on the half hour, well informed on the news item, but on the talk item, I don't know if you caught that, but I was just beside myself, completely uninformed, and yet gaining support that by bringing the two issues together. Quite clearly here tonight, I can only hope that the majority of the city is watching, likely not, but we have long time ago, separated the two. And we did it in a way that I think the entire nation, communities that see it coming, have participated positively, asked questions positively to those people who are working extra hard on this as it relates to what we can control as a municipality to something we can't control as a municipality as it relates to their installation. We can control when and how and where and what needs to be done from the planning point of view because we know best. And we need to, I believe, as colleagues of those who are enduring through this right now and speaking on behalf of a wide majority of their constituents, appreciate where they're coming from. They are arguing at this table like they would on any other item about a specific issue. And anybody who doesn't want to support them wants to support the person who really only came to speak to us once, who continues to go on the radio and speak to other media, mainstream or otherwise, saying, we're working with the community, we're doing this. So I'm to believe that, or am I to believe concrete example after concrete example from my colleagues who actually live there and represent the people there? We just keep hearing more and more where this is just not the case. So you believe one or you believe the other, and that is essentially and simply what this is about here tonight. And it's not 200 grand, as Scott said, Councillor Duval said, 50 to 70 to pursue this, with a whole lot of support from municipalities outside of the city. So it's really unfortunate that it's getting lost and getting jumbled up with the actual issue of whether we want community mailboxes or not. I followed this right from day one, where the councillor's assistant from Ward 8 stood in a ditch, and the nation tweeted, and the nation followed. And, you know, I heard what Councillor Jackson was saying. I heard what Councillor Duval has been saying. I've listened intently to what Councillor Connolly has been saying. Quote tonight, quote, saying these guys don't want to talk to us, end quote. He's my colleague. He's dealing with the issue. I'm siding with Connolly on this. Not the guy who now and again is going on the radio, representing CP as their PR guy, saying, well, we're working with the community. Well, maybe in some capacity at whatever percentage is offered here tonight, but clearly by those who are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis with their many constituents representing a large portion of our population of Hamilton, it's not working out. They have legal backing, not only from our own staff, but from experts throughout the country. So why the heck wouldn't we support them here tonight in pursuing what is clearly an issue of working with this municipality, listening to the people who do know, and working with the people, not just saying you're working with the people. So I wholeheartedly support, and like I said the other day in committee, I congratulate the work of Councillor Whitehead Duval, Connolly, and Councillor Jackson, because they're holding their ground, and they're colleagues of mine, and they know their ward better than we do, and I want to support them. And I will tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farr. We have myself on the speakers list, followed by Pasuda and Johnson. Mr. Mayor, will you please take the chair? Sir. Just a few questions for clarity, kind of going along the line of reasoning of my councillor colleague, Duval. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering through Jerry, what is the cost of a street light?
Jerry Davis.
Through the chair, I don't have that offhand, but again, I can get the information for you. Thank you.
Given your vast experience, Mr. Mayor, through you, if you were to ballpark and hypothetically guess the general cost of installing a streetlight, given your experience, your vast experience as a director of that department, what would that be?
And, through the mayor, I don't have an estimate for you.
A priority signal, as I recall, is about 150,000. 150,000, as I recall, roughly.
Not a stoplight, a street light. For lighting, for lighting purposes.
Yeah. Or priority signal light, about 150,000.
That's traffic light, Mr. Mayor. I'm talking about a street light for lighting purposes. If we could,
what's the answer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe Councillor Duval.
I don't know.
The city doesn't do streetlights, by the way. That's Hamilton Utilities Corp.
You, Mr. Mayor, I don't know what the cost of the actual light pole is or the light, but I do know from experience of relocating or installing a light pole, it's approximately $2,300 just for installation.
Okay.
So a question that might be more near and dear to your heart, Mr. Mayor, or I should say to Mr. Davis, what are the costs generally of road cuts for accessibility?
Through the chair, depending on the type of road cut and the size, they could range from $1,500 to $5,000.
We'll go 1,500 just for the sake of it. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Janice Wachowski, this was referenced earlier, therefore it's on the public record. What was the cost of the slip and fall that occurred based on the sidewalk heaving? What was the cost of that?
Janice? Which one, you might ask? Yeah.
The most recent one that that made the headlines most. Anyone, average cost of a slip and fall, or the recent settlement, I think, is most appropriate.
Not so sure that we can reveal that, quite frankly. Janice?
Through the Deputy Mayor, if it's the incident that I'm thinking of that was part of the decision, where the quantum of damage was agreed on and noted in the decision, it was $70,000.
I'm sorry, can you please state that again? I didn't hear it.
If it was the decision that was the incident that was, there was a decision very recently, about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, that referenced a quantum of damage for a slip and fall, which was $70,000.
$70,000. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, I'm curious to anybody who might have an answer to this. What is the estimated amount of superbox installations over the course of this program? How many in total do they plan on installing?
Janice?
Through the Deputy Mayor, we've just seen approximately the first 1,000 go in as part of the first phase, and there's an additional 3,000 to 4,000 coming.
So in total, we're looking at about 5,000 superboxes in total. Is that correct?
Yes, 4,000 to 5,000 is my understanding.
4,000 to 5,000 super boxes. We have ascertained that a street light, assuming that not all of them need street lights, but certainly some of them will probably need some street light, could cost anywhere to $1,500. We've ascertained that some of them might need some road cuts for accessibility issues, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,300. We've also ascertained through this course of questioning that the most recent slip and fall is a $70,000 cost. So members of council, it seems very apparent to me, given the scale of this program, our fiduciary responsibility is actually to protect ourselves against future risk. And given the one slip and fall that occurred recently at 70K, given the 5,000 boxes that are going in, I don't think I'd be very far off in guessing there will be, in future time, maybe not near or even intermediate, in future time, there will be some issues here, given that there's no maintenance programs in place for snow removal, given that there's, at our cost, given that there's no planned entrance for road cuts. It is safe to say, regardless, out of the 5,000, at some point in time, we are exposing ourselves to a risk that could be equal or greater than the $70,000 risk that we've just recently experienced here. So given all of these things, and I'm, I have to say I'm a little bit shocked when I hear about downloading constantly around this horseshoe. This is, as Councillor Duval eloquently stated, a very straight form of downloading. They are downloading the fixed costs of their service on the municipality at our cost. So I am as confused as my councillor colleagues who are in favor of this motion why we would not want to pursue this, A, for full cost recovery as we would any other project, and B, to mitigate any future risk that we will have on liability, because it will come. And, for the cost that's out there, it is exploratory law. I do have faith in our legal department that given the opinion, as stated by the judgment, that there is a case for this. And so for that reason, I would also ask, given that these members of council that we serve with day in and day out have experienced this, given that it will be coming down the pipeline to all the inner-city councillors, recognizing that the rural councillors already have this placed out, but I would also respectfully like to point out that perhaps there was better planning going in place there, certainly less density, so therefore less traffic. I can't imagine what it would look like having a mailbox on Mohawk Road where I grew up. That's crazy. So I am very much in favor of keeping local planning decisions in the jurisdiction of the municipality of the City of Hamilton as per all existing constitutional rights prior to Confederation and the BNA Act, as was stated today by course of law. And I can't see how we wouldn't pursue this and at least, as Councillor Duvall said, give our taxpayers the adequate shot at future risk, because that would be expensive. And I can only imagine the conversation or the headline when one issue happens that, gosh, if we just went a little bit further, had a little bit more courage, took on Goliath, as did David, that we might be ahead of this thing. And I'm also fully in agreement, Mr. Mayor, through you to members of council. There's no room for conciliation here. They have been very clear from day one where we stand, and the only place that will get sorted out is in the court of law. Talk radio, not the place. If you take a couple of emails, I think that the conversation around the table is we have a fiduciary responsibility to mitigate risk. So for that reason, as well as all the other eloquent reasons that were stated prior to me, given the costs, the clear costs of risk that we're taking on by not pursuing this, I stand in solidarity with my councillor colleagues who are going through this, fully respect the work that they're doing, and hope that those of you who have decided perhaps not to support this consider or reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no additional speakers, so back to your speakers list, and you can put Councillor Marula on for a second time.
There we have it.
1 second. Yeah, I think he's got a continuing speakers list, do you?
I do have a continuing speakers list. We have Councillor Pursuta, first-time speaker, followed by Councillor Johnson, first-time speaker, followed by second-time speaker, Councillor Whitehead, followed by Councillor Marula. So, on to the first-time speaker, we have Councillor Pursuta.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Green. I'm not going to take much time here tonight. Heard lots, passionate plea by Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Duvall. Councillor Jackson is not here. I wish he was here. He could speak passionately too. Just maybe a little off topic, not really. In the rural areas, we have been losing postal service in the small towns, the closing of the post offices. So we're getting super boxes. Placement is near churches, libraries, not busy towns, so it's fine. I've had one that was on, it's on Highway 6 now. It's in Concession 8 West, on the shoulder of the road by the farm field, and it got moved over to the gas station on Highway 8, the Esso station. The people now have to come up, cross Highway 6 from the west side to the east side, drive a little ways down, then cross back across from the east to the west side, and then get their mail and come back. And the kids no longer can go for a walk. The mothers with their buggies are afraid to go along Highway 6. So I'm still working on that one, trying to work with Canda Post to get it moved back to the concession road where it's safer. I understand where my colleagues are coming from. It's about safe, respectable, responsible placement of the boxes. Don't have a whole lot to say. Councillor Connolly kind of hit it really well, and David and Goliath, yes. I don't like spending money. I'd like to be frugal and do things right. But I'm going to support my colleagues here today with this. Let's get on with it. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pursuta. We have Councillor Johnson. We have Councillor Aidan Johnson. My apologies, Councillor Aidan Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Like Councillor Pursuta, I will try not to take up too much time. I am for the appeal, re Canda Post. I agree with all of the arguments for the appeal that I've heard from my colleagues. Councillor Pearson got it very right when she said that her primary reason, and arguably the best reason for going ahead with the appeal, has to do with defending our rights to our roads. And I know this is an issue close to your heart for a variety of reasons, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm confident in former Justice Binney's recommendation that we can win. This is about downloading, as we've heard. It's also about the federal government claiming powers for itself that it has no right to. Section 92 of the British North America Act, which is part of our Constitution, says that the provinces have jurisdiction over municipal institutions. We have our rights to control our roads and our municipal lands because the Ontario Crown has decided that we have that right, pursuant to Section 92 of the British North America Act. The federal government, in the form of Canda Post, has no constitutional right to take that power away from the Ontario Crown. If we roll over on this one, it sets a very bad precedent. This is an argument we've heard many times, and we've heard it here tonight, in terms of rolling over, letting the federal government download to us and claim powers for itself that it has no right to. It's a local issue, and it's a national issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson. On the second-time speakers list, are there any other first-time speakers? On the second-time speakers list, we have Councillor Whitehead.
Thank
I just want to provide some clarification because I heard some court cases that were injury type cases. They weren't constitutional or legislative cases, so we need to draw that line. So on legislative cases in 1978, this council, not the same people sitting around here, of course, but certainly the council of the day back then approved an appeal regarding the Port Authority. That, I believe, and I'm going to get some clarification from Janice, went to all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, if that council took the attitude that the cost was too much, we would have never won that case. We would have never had the case. That went all the way to the Supreme Court. Hamilton was successful. There's the Lafarge case. There's the Western Bank case. More recent cases that identify flexibility within the Constitution, within federalism. And it talks about the fact that bylaws and those kind of regulations can work in harmony with legislation. That's what the regulation we're putting forward does. It doesn't prohibit. What it does is regulate. And there are cases, more current cases, that make that point. So we could be individuals that say, hey, we went through the motions. I wasn't here for the motions. I was here because I really believe in this underlying principle of safety. That's the only reason why I continue to do what I do. That's why I went to London. That's why I went to Aurora. That's why I went to Newmark. It's because I believe, and so does that Federation of Municipalities. I sat on the right-of-way committee, and they fundamentally agree that municipalities have to protect what rights you have. You can't allow them to be eroded. Telecommunications companies are under the Federal Act. They have the same legislation, very similar legislation as Canda Post. They apply for permits. So, when you look at this, and, the other thing I need to identify is between Councillor Johnson's ward and Councillor Pearson's ward and Councillor Connolly's ward, the individuals that are actually dealing with this issue today and getting the calls and looking at some of these locations, and I know that I've heard some straight from Councillor Johnson as well. They're places waiting for an action to happen. And I'll get back to Councillor Green's point, we have a fiduciary responsibility on safety. When I look at individual issues where is the quarry issue up in Flamborough, we're not close to it, but you are. And we listen to you, and we support you because you know what is happening there. And I would only ask for the same consideration. Please understand what we're going through. We have dealt with Canda Post. We have asked for them to move super mailboxes, and we've had them refused. We've had residents ask to have the super mailboxes moved 6 feet so there wouldn't be a blind spot. Canda Post refused. So I'm asking my colleagues that are looking at this and looking at the cost, safety should always be paramount, number one, and number two, understand that a good chunk of the councillors that are being impacted by this decision represents over half the population of this community. And I would hope that, and there's another 4 or 5 wards to go in regards to the location of these super mailboxes. And I'm going to tell you, when it gets to downtown, it's going to be ugly. The location, it's not going to get better. So this fight is worth fighting. It's worth bringing, and somebody said, well, the other municipalities haven't arrived at the table. Well, first of all, we have to make the decision. Then we have to send the letter. I have talked to councillors, and they said we can't take any action until you have a formal letter in front of us. We can't send a formal letter until we make a decision. So I would ask of my colleagues to rethink a $75,000 between $65,000 and $75,000 cost, safety, and for all those other incurred costs that Councillor Matthew Green so eloquently put forward. And we're talking about our legal department being very supportive going to the appeal, and Janice has done a very good job on the legal front in regards to cutting our cost. She feels that this is a judicious decision. So please support our legal department and support your ward councillors. Thank you.
Second time speakers list, we have Councillors Marula, Johnson, and Ferguson. Councillor Marula, the floor is yours. Again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I find this somewhat humorous. The $65,000 is really for the next election's pamphlet, that you fought something that perhaps you knew you couldn't really prevent from happening. The issue is this. Constitutionally, the City of Hamilton has absolutely no bearing whatsoever. I'm hearing people make reference to the Ontario Crown Corporation or the Ontario aspect of this, but through you, Mr. Chairman, to whoever can answer this, what is the province of Ontario's position on this particular item?
I think that would probably go to our legal counsel, Ms. Janice Atwood-Bukowski, on the constitutional powers of Section 92 as pertaining to Ontario, the municipality, and the City of Hamilton.
What's the province's position on this?
So through the Deputy Mayor, we will have a better understanding of the province's position on this when Council makes a decision, which will be followed up by a written request from the City, as you'll see in the
So you're telling me
in the resolution.
So you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, are you telling me right now?
Councilor Morell, I think she was still finishing.
No. I'm just curious
answer.
because no, that's fine. I'm just curious. Through you, Mr. Chairman, is Janice stating that the province has no position presently? They're allowing Canda Post to erect these boxes throughout the province at will, without any constitutional fight to date. Is that what? So they need our position before the province has an actual stand on this particular issue. Elaborate on that, please.
Ms. Janice Atwood-Bukowski, if you would like to continue your answer, I'm sure you'd be able to get some clarity there.
Through the Deputy Mayor, I will take another run at it and try to clarify. So it's interesting. The province at this point in time is looking at the issue. We are in communication with the province. But I'm sure you can appreciate the province will not take a position on the matter. The province is not a party at this point in time. If there is an appeal, we will be seeking the province, the Attorney General, to become involved, and we believe that they may become involved. However, I would hasten to add that the province does not always involve itself in litigation between municipalities and higher levels of government. So it is something that we will seek from the province. We will seek them to become involved. We know that we are discussing with their legal counsel what position they may take. However, until this council makes a determination to appeal, those other parties are not parties. They have no standing. If this decision is appealed by this council, there are a number of other parties who we expect will seek to become involved through intervener status. There are also other municipalities who we believe may be willing to assist in a financial way, which sometimes occurs where municipalities will provide small contributions. But if this council does not appeal, then there is no matter on which to intervene.
Just to revisit what the Federation of Canada is all about, you have two parties that have equal power: the government of Ontario, and the federal government of Canada. Municipalities of Ontario have no right whatsoever under that constitution. So, based on what the answer I just received, basically what was being basically spoken tonight is that the only constitutional argument that we have, which is the province of Ontario, has no position presently, and they're waiting for creatures of the province, meaning the municipality, to appeal to a court for them to actually develop a position. Through you, Mr. Chairman, can you just confirm that for me, please?
Through the Deputy Mayor, and without seeming to appear argumentative, that is actually not totally correct.
So what's the position of the Ontario government?
Municipalities are, as we often say, creatures of statute. However, it is true that the municipal authority to regulate roads predates the BNA Act, predates Section 91 and 92 through the Baldwin Act.
Sorry, Councilor Marula.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, what is the position of the Ontario
Mr.
government?
Marula, we're going to allow her to finish the question.
No, she's not answering the question. My question is not the answer. Mr. Chairman, to Janice, what is the position of the Ontario government as it pertains to Canda Post and this particular issue? That's all I need to know.
Although I can appreciate you might not be giving the answer that you'd like.
No, I need my answer. So, Mr. Chairman, stop. Through you to Janice, what is the official position of the Ontario government as it pertains to Canda Post? That's all I need to know.
Ms. Janice Atwood-Bukowski, if you would like to now continue your answer, please feel free to do so.
Through the Deputy Mayor, there is no official position on the record at this point in time with respect to the province's position vis-a-vis Canda Post, because the issue is with respect to the municipal roads. So the province has not taken an official position. They've not been asked to take an official position.
So would it not be, through you, Mr. Chairman, to you, Janice, more advantageous and less costly to simply request the province to act on behalf of municipalities, to have an understanding of what this position is, rather than litigate?
You've heard the question of the councillor. If you could please respond.
Through the Deputy Mayor, and with all due respect, it really doesn't work like that. Municipalities really do not have the opportunity or the right to ask or request or demand that the province step in and take a position with respect to a matter between, in this case, the municipality and a federal body.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, so what would then the creation and the establishment and the consistent of Ontario be created? For what purpose then? Why would we not seek out that type of activity from that body to advocate on behalf of municipalities rather than through a judicial process?
Through the Deputy Mayor, that's a very good question. And the answer in part is that AMO is an organization that was created by municipalities wishing to have better clout, for lack of another word, in lobbying. And it's of note that the City of Toronto did not for many years, and I believe to this date, does not belong to AMO. AMO is an attempt by municipalities to have a stronger lobby with the province. It's just that.
Okay, so my point is, have one lawyer, we have a decision at the court that's obviously not sided with us. We now have this lawyer who's obviously seeking work, as many should be, arguably suggesting that we have an argument. We now have a grander picture of one that is nationwide, and the complexity of this issue can't be simplified with the $65,000 legal bill. So my point is that when the time comes, when this comes full circle, one can argue as a result of supporting this on a pamphlet that you supported the fight of it, but the reality is you're not going to prevent it. So I'm not going to sit here and try in any way to bolster anyone's next campaign. I'm going to say it the way it is. It is what it is, and it will happen, and there's nothing that we can do about it. So suck it up, stick a fork in it, and make the best of it, and let's work with them rather than sue them, and I appreciate your time.
Councillor Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I apologize. Did you still want that on the question? The point of procedure? Okay. Would it be okay if we went Ferguson and then you? Because if it was on the question, then it would have been at that time. Is that okay? Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I agree with some of what Councillor Marula just said, and I disagree with other parts of what Councillor Marula just said. One thing he said that I agree with is that it would be better to settle this out of court if we can. And that's a point that Councillor Partridge raised. So this is a question I have for staff. I suppose it's a question for Janice or for possibly Mr. Murray if he feels he has a kind of a better answer or a valuable answer to give. Is it possible, so I will frame it that way, is it possible to have talks with Canda Post before the appeal goes ahead to see if we can resolve it without appealing? And as a caveat to that question, I do not see a contradiction between voting for the appeal, which is my intention, and stating that I think we should be looking at settling this out of court also. Indeed, I would argue that voting tonight to go ahead with the appeal bolsters our strength in going to the table and saying we're deadly serious about appealing if needed, but we'd rather not. So I would like to direct my question over to staff, please.
I have the City Manager, Mr. Murray, to the question, sir.
Sure. Well, let me start, Janice, and then you can play cleanup. Through you, Deputy Mayor, actually, Councillor Johnson, what you're suggesting is not unlike what we did with Bell and the CRTC matter that we've gone forward with is that we connected with the senior officials within Bell because we had a problem with respect to the work that they're doing within our roadway right away to see if we couldn't avoid having to take the matter up with the CRTC. We weren't successful, but that was exactly the direction that we were given, and then we fulfilled it. So, yeah, there's nothing stopping us from connecting with the appropriate people within Bell. And as you point out, if this council supports the appeal, having that as, call it whatever you want, ammunition, I think only bolsters our resolve to try and settle this matter out of court. And to the question that was asked earlier about engaging the provincial government, Janice's answer I know is correct. But I will say this, in that when we took the federal government to court and won successfully at the two levels within the court system, we did I think write a letter to the provincial government making them aware of our actions, and they actually chose to intervene in the federal action. So it's really up. You can't demand them to do it, but you can certainly make them aware. And I'd be surprised if they weren't aware of what we're contemplating anyway. So there's two things that you can consider, but certainly, there's nothing stopping us from talking administration to administration.
Councillor.
Through the Deputy Mayor, I think the City Manager said it all.
Sorry, my last question. Am I correct that there's no need for any kind of amendment to this motion to make sure we do resolutely go ahead with those negotiations? That's my understanding, so correct me if I'm wrong.
If you have no one else on the speakers list?
We have two members on the speakers list. We have Councillor Ferguson, second-time speakers list, Councillor Ferguson and Pearson.
All right, I'd like to call the question if you want to come back to me. Thank you.
Speakers that are still on the list.
I guess there's no need to. We're going to call the question, stand recorded. Were you on the first or second? You're on the second-time speakers list, so the question had before the question was called. Proceed. Okay. Well, we got the deputy. We're good. Feel free to take the floor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't want anybody to misunderstand the passion. I get the passion for everyone wanting to defend our right to protect our road allowance. I understand that. But all I'm trying to do is be practical. And, I'm hearing the strong case we have, and the feds can't overrule the province, and we're creatures of the province, and we should be able to win this case. But if that's true, why did we lose? And why did we lose so miserably? And so the second point I want to make is, how long will it take to get the appeal finished? Because you have to retain counsel. They have to apply for, apply for the appeal. And if the appeal is accepted, set down a trial date. The date will get bumped as criminal cases take precedent over these civil cases. You have to have the hearing, and you have to have the decision. I would expect Canda Post will be finished with Hamilton by then. All the super mailboxes will be in, because that'll take an extended amount of time. And this is the practical side I'm trying to bring out. And the third and last point is, I'm a little concerned that exaggerated costs are being thrown around here tonight. The General Manager of Public Works has asked what a road cut cost. I think he said $500 to $5,000. This doesn't need a road cut. It needs a curb cut to get the depression put in so people with accessibility requirements can get up to the boxes. Road cuts run about $80 to $90 per meter. You might need 3 meters. And so it's a big difference between a curb cut and a road cut. You don't dig the road up to put these mailboxes in. The second thing, I've got some recent experience from staff with streetlights, if required, for these boxes. Nobody knows that for sure yet, but if it is required, if there's existing poles there for hydro or Bell, it's about $200 per light. If they need a new pole with wiring, a davit, and a light, it does run around $2,000 to $2,500. But typically in these areas, particularly the old part, it's overhead wiring that's serving these areas, not underground, and they just simply bolted to an existing pole. That's the only points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Appreciate the clarity on those numbers. The question has been called.
Yes, thank you.
So we will have a standing recorded vote. Sorry? Oh, we got to vote on the question? So we're going to vote on the call to question. Moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Pearson. All those in favor? Carried. Standing recorded vote. All those in favor?
Deputy Mayor Green, Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Duval, Councillor Farr, Councillor Aidan Johnson, Councillor Connolly, Councillor Pearson, Councillor Brenda Johnson, Councillor Vanderbeek, and Councillor Pasuda.
All those opposed?
Mayor Eisenberger, Councillor Collins, Councillor Marula, Councillor Ferguson, and Councillor Partridge.
The motion carries. Thank you. Mayor Eisenberger, may I please have a motion to approve the report and receive the information section as presented?
Yes, sir. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Partridge, that the 13th report of the General Issues Committee be adopted, presented, and the information section received.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carried. The motion carries. We're on to item 6.5. The Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee presents Report 15-007 and respectfully recommends Item 1. Item 2. Item 3. We have on item 3, Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. On item 3, this is the report that was presented with regards to the municipal tax competitiveness study. And I know there was an article in the paper, an editorial with regards to this, I think, today. I just wanted to point out, because it's unfortunate a lot of residents don't realize that we're actually pinched on both sides here. Mr. Zagara can clarify. So right now, Hamilton is just one of 2 municipalities in the comparator group of 16 with a levy restriction. And this levy restriction results in an added tax burden that is put over onto the residential property tax class. And it has to do with the tax levy increase that can be levied against industrial. They can only levy 50% towards industrial of what we set our tax rate at. So everything else that they can't goes on the residential tax base. So that's the one pillar that we're up against. The other side is the fact that with Hamilton's above average residential taxes combined with the relatively low average household income, it continues to rank as high as far as our tax comparables. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not sure if Mr. Zagaric wanted to add any more, but I just want to be sure the public understands we're doing our darndest to keep it down. We came in, very good this year again, and it gets harder every budget process that we go through. So thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, for allowing me to speak on that.
Councillor Pearson, Mr. Zagaric, would you like to comment on us doing our darndest?
For you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Pearson identified some of the key factors as it relates to the residential trend. I should point out to Council in terms of the where the City of Hamilton is trending relative to our comparators as it relates to our tax competitiveness is we're trending favorably, and we've been reporting to Council since 2001. There are some classes where we are competitive relative to our comparator group. Office building and large industrial continue to be well below our comparator average, 19 and 23% respectively. In the case of neighborhood shopping center, we've seen some improvements. We were at one point 45% above the comparator's average, and we're now about 25% above the comparator average. But as Councillor Pearson identified, the restriction as it relates to our industrial being a protected class has an impact on transferring some of the tax burden onto residential, as well as the successes that the City of Hamilton has experienced with respect to increased assessment and increased reassessment relative to the average as it relates to commercial is having a negative impact on our competitiveness, but it is providing a benefit to private property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zagaric. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank staff for annually giving us this report. Unfortunately, it comes at the wrong time. In fact, it's come now on the eve of the summer, and it should come on the eve of the budget. And so I know Mr. Zagaric has oftentimes during the budget process will provide us with information that shows how competitive we are in comparison from a tax perspective with other municipalities. And we've been very fortunate over the last number of years in some way with our property values as they compare to some parts of the GTA and in between. Our property values are relatively low, and the cost of land and buildings in this municipality is relatively low. And so investors are looking at Hamilton, certainly from that context, and looking at us as an ideal place to invest. But it's just a matter of time, and we're all experiencing it in every ward in the city, where property values are on the rise, and the hottest real estate market still in the country, not just the province, but in the country. And as those property values rise and the cost of purchasing land here in the city increases, we will become less attractive to those developers and those people looking to invest who have, over the last decade or more, looked at Hamilton as the ideal place to set up shop because it's so cheap to locate here. And I say that in the context of we can't rest on our laurels in that regard. And we need something that's going to help us over the next, we need a strategy for it. I mean, it's not good enough to just receive the reports and to show us and to try every budget year to say, yep, we're going to try to hit inflation or less, or the goal is zero. We've been there once or twice in the last 15 years. I think we need a strategy, not just from economic development, but a plan from both economic development and our finance department that says, here's how we're going to get there. And from a municipal tax competitive perspective. And as I've said in the past, and I hate to sound like a broken record, we certainly do well on the expense side of things, but it's on the revenue side, growing new tax assessment without introducing new taxes or raising taxes. That's where we seem to have fallen short. We're really at about a 1% growth per annum, and that's good, but it's not great, and it's not helping us get to where we want to be, which is either at the provincial average or lower as it relates to not just residential, but some of the other property tax classes that are listed in the report. So I'm certainly going to have a discussion with some of my colleagues in terms of what a motion might look like to ask staff to come back with some kind of a presentation. I don't believe that going annually, we talk about multi-year budgets, but I don't think an annual budget process that doesn't look at a short, medium, and long-term plan from a tax competitiveness perspective makes any sense. So I'm going to talk to some of my colleagues, as I said, and maybe bring back a motion, or in fact I will bring back a motion to seeks to marry the tax situation with economic development. Those two go hand in hand. But I did want to take this opportunity to thank Mike for their report. I know staff annually put a lot of effort into looking at how we compare to other municipalities. And as I said, tongue-in-cheek earlier, but there is some truth to it. We should be receiving this on the eve of our budget process to help motivate us. Not that we need more motivation than the calls and emails we get from our residents and investors, but it is a good reminder in terms of where we should be at, and we still have a ways to go.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. On item number 3, are there any other questions on the speaker? Carried. All those in favor? Number 4? Item number 5? 6? Councillor Pearson, may I please have a motion to approve the report and receive the information section as presented?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, you can. It's been moved by myself, second by Councillor Brenda Johnson, that the 7th report of Audit, Finance and Administration Committee be adopted as presented and information section received.
You've heard the motion as presented. All those in favor? Now on to item 6.6 was the Emergency and Community Services Committee presenting reports 15-006 and respectfully recommends item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, item 6, 7, 8, 9, item 10, 11. Councillor Whitehead, may I please have a motion to approve the report and receive the information section as presented?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Scott Duval, that the 6th report of the Emergency and Community Services Committee be adopted and presented and the information section received.
You've heard the motion as forwarded by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Duval. All those in favor? Carried. We are, anybody got any good jokes? Oh, no good? Okay. That was actually pretty good. Okay, so may I please have a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole and report our Assistant Deputy to the Deputy, Councillor Farr. Do we have a motion to rise and report?
Rise and report by Councillor of Ward 4.
All those in favor? Okay, Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours. The committee has, the whole has risen and is reporting. Like this.
Paul, very much. While you're slowly trotting over there, Deputy Mayor Green, could you consider a motion to have the committee of the whole rise and report? You've done that already? Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, we had the assistant
Thank
deputy to the deputy do that for me.
Deputy, okay. Doctor, Councillor. Okay, motions. We have a motion, item 7.1. Wentworth Adult Mixed Slow Pitch League for a alcohol permit. Slow pitch and alcohol is always a good match. Councillor Duval.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Councillor. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chad Collins for the Wentworth Adults Mixed Slow Pitch League playoffs to be held on August 29th, 30th, and 28th, 29th, and 30th at Turner Park, and it's for a special occasion permit.
Very good.
You have a
It's
motion
all before you. It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Cactus Festival, another special occasion permit as well. Councillor Vanderbeek.
Moved by myself. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pasuda, that the City of Hamilton hereby deems Cactus Festival being held in the town of Dundas, Ontario on August the 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2015 as municipally significant, and that the following applicant be provided a copy of this resolution for inclusion with their application to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, which is 1038641 Ontario Limited, operating as the Winchester Arms Dundas, care of Mrs. Pauline Lee, Dundas, Ontario.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Farr, you have a motion on the TO 2015 Pan Am special occasion permit as well.
And I don't think anybody can argue, Mr. Mayor, that this is also municipally significant, and it is also related to a special occasion permit. It is moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Green.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Whitehead, I understand you have a motion or a additional motion on item 811, or 811, I should say, in the information section. So there's a motion respecting Auchmar's binding request for proposal.
Thank you. I have it listed as 7.4.
Yeah, 7.4, yeah.
7.1.
7.4.
7.4. So, Mr. Chair, this is a reconsideration motion. This is the original motion that was passed that asked for our staff to go through some processes in regards to a concurrent process, a public process for Auchmar, as well as a real estate deal, and to authorize them to start moving in that direction. So that's the essence of what the original motion was, and I'm asking that we can't waive the rules, it's about reconsideration. So at this point, I'm going to be moving a motion to suspend the real estate piece, give us 6 months for the public process to unfold. I've had my first big meeting with staff, and a pretty significant amount of people attended. They really want to contribute. This is the last kick at the can. I don't want to get into the debate yet, because this is really about reconsideration first before I get into the debate on the main motion.
But I think it's important that people understand what the secondary motion is that you're heading towards.
So
on the original.
Sorry, so on the motion that I will be putting forward in this place is to suspend the real estate process, allow the 6 months for the public process to unfold, and come in here and make a compelling case. And one of the significant arguments that I've been told is that we're muddying the waters with having the two processes running concurrently, because in fact those that are doing their due diligence and spending dollars to put a real estate offer in feel that are concerned that if you got they're competing against a public process, it muddies the water, and if the public process is awarded the decision, then they spend money for naught. So they don't want to go necessarily through and I want to make sure that if there's a real estate process that is a very competitive process, and that is not muddied. So this way we clear the air and say we'll deal with the public process first, And then if not successful, then we'll do the real estate deal.
Okay, so we've got some latitude for you to explain the kind of the secondary motion that's coming up. So on the original motion, there's a request to reconsider, requires a 2/3 majority to undo. Councillor, question?
Can we debate the reconsideration motion?
Absolutely.
Okay. My concern is that we have a willing buyer now. We've been looking for a long time for a willing buyer. And while we have great respect for the friends of Auchmar, there's been a decade go past when they could have put a I like the idea of a tandem process because at the end you can compare the two and come up with the best decision, both from an historical perspective and from a business perspective. And so, quite frankly, I can't support a reconsideration motion because I think we made the right decision last time to run a tandem motion to get this to an end because it's been hanging around for too long.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. So on reconsideration motion, Councillor Partridge.
Actually, I think Councillor Pearson was before. No? Okay. All right. Thank you. I just, on the reconsideration motion, I have a question for staff because I understood, and I like the idea of a parallel process as well, but I want to make sure that that I have a good understanding. My understanding is the RFP process we have out there is non-binding. I'd like to hear from staff, please.
Yeah. So, Chris, please.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, we are not engaged in an RFP process right now. We are engaged in a real estate sale process. Right. So as we've tried, I think 3 times to try and deal with Auchmar over the last decade through an RFP and have not been successful. The report that we brought forward had recommended that we pursue a real estate sale subject to all the conditions that are on that property. So just so as we're clear, this is not an RFP.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate the clarification. So on the real estate deal, though, they're also non-binding, is my understanding. I mean, we're negotiating at this point. We're not negotiating. It's whoever comes forward, I guess, is my question. Right now, we apparently have one applicant, but there's nothing to stop someone else from coming forward at this time, or is there a time frame that we're dealing within? Just for some clarity around that, please.
Mr. Murray.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, Ray Kessler, who's our head of real estate, is here, and Ray is more than capable of answering that question. So Ray.
Okay, Ray, if you would.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we are actually we are entertaining multiple proposals at this point in time in terms of parties who are interested in acquiring the property.
Well, thank you, because I understood, through you, Mr. Mayor, I understood that we were just dealing with one entity at this point, but what I'm hearing is that we do have multiple applicants that we're currently dealing with?
That's correct.
Right, so I would be concerned about suspending that because and again, for some clarity, perhaps through clerks or whoever's appropriate, if we do the reconsideration motion and we suspend the real estate negotiations, we have been negotiating in good faith at this point. So, to just suspend that, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding that. Is that what would happen? Is that clear?
Right.
Clarify the question. Are you asking whether or not we are, whether suspending would suspend the negotiations? If
Yes.
that is the question, yes.
All right, thank you.
We'd have to suspend the negotiations at this point.
All right, thank you. So I just want to make sure that I asked the question properly and you understood it. So what we would be voting on here, it would be your understanding that any negotiations with all parties, and I'm hearing there's more than one, would be suspended.
Yes, that is correct. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
For a sale, right.
Right.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, how long have some of these negotiations been going on? I'm just concerned about bad faith bargaining at this point.
Only since the last council meeting is when the decision was made to move forward in this manner.
So just two weeks? Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Right. But just in that 2 weeks, we have several applicants, is what I'm hearing, that we're negotiating with? Are they inquiries or are they negotiations? Because that's what I'm asking, through you, Mr. Mayor.
At this point, we have more than one, and I'll just say we have more than one that we're negotiating with. We do have other interested parties that are intending to come to the table. Whether or not they show up is yet to be seen.
All right, and thank you very much. I appreciate that clarification, because that certainly makes, to me anyway, that's a little bit different than just having some interest. If we're already in negotiations, and yet we have a reconsideration vote to suspend that, then go back out to the public for another 6 months. Through you, Mr. Mayor, how successful do you think we'll be trying to get any applicants in the future to come forward to start negotiating again?
Right.
Will this hurt our chances?
In my experience, ambiguity or the private sector or parties that are interested in acquiring this are keenly interested in clarity of process. And when we begin to muddy waters, they begin to find other interests to exercise their resources and their energies.
So just to be clear then, when I heard you say that, are you suggesting we would be better to suspend the negotiations?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I think they want to know what they're up against.
Right, so to continue with negotiations and to be clear and fair in our processes is what I'm hearing.
That's correct.
Would certainly be appropriate, and I would hope would be the only way that the City of Hamilton would enter into any deals. Thank you. That answers my questions.
Okay, thank you. I have no further speakers identified on reconsideration. Councillor Whitehead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I find it a bit boggling that you have a significant historic facility on the mountain, the only one that is owned by the city.
Okay, so hang on. So we're going to debate reconsideration, whether or not we should not the issue itself, but the reconsideration of this motion.
Well, I am speaking to the reconsideration.
Well, kind of.
Let me finish.
Kind of. Okay, finish, and then we'll.
If you let me finish, well, respectfully. And I've heard, in fact, I talked to one of the proponents that's interested in purchasing the building. He had no issue. He thought 6 months might be long, so in open transparency, he said 3 months. But he agreed that would, you talk about muddied waters, they're competing against a public process. So that is muddying the waters. So he had no problem with the 3 months. He made it pretty clear to me that 3 months. I said, well, I'm looking for 6. Now, I've let you know that the discussion, he would have preferred 3. But there's no question, once you take if the public application is not successful, it's moved out, then it's clear and free on the real estate side. There's no muddied waters, period. So I just want to provide that clarity.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to go on the record that saying, as I have from the get-go, I fully support keeping the Auchmar in 100% public hands and fully support this motion of reconsideration to put a pause, a hold on any or all private negotiations or semi-private negotiations that have been happening, or overtures or interests, until we fully exhaust all of our public options to keep this into our good. So I fully support this motion and Councillor Whitehead, and certainly hoping that members of council will as well.
Okay, thank you. So let's test the will of council. Then I'm going to ask for a standing recorded vote and then ask the clerk to make the count. Councillor Partridge, one last time.
Thank you. I just wanted to, again, make sure I'm clear, though. So is there any reason why the public process can't continue to go? I mean, the reconsideration motion, is that going to completely quash that? Why could we continue with both?
That's the essence of the discussion that we're having. So
well, I know.
The original recommendation does exactly what you're suggesting.
Right.
Councillor Whitehead's secondary recommendation, if this one fails, is that he would have a single stream process for a public process only and not for a sale.
All right. So the original motion, which is sitting before us for reconsideration, does exactly what I'm suggesting.
Correct.
That is what we're doing. Thank you.
Okay, so on the motion then. So all those in favor of reconsideration, please stand.
Deputy Mayor Green, Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Duval, Councillor Collins, Councillor Marula, Councillor Farr, Councillor A. Johnson,
Councillor Conley, Councillor Pearson, Councillor B. Johnson, Councillor Vanderbeek, and Councillor Pursuta.
Okay, and those opposed?
Mayor Eisenberger, Councillor Ferguson, and Councillor Partridge.
Okay, thank you.
The reconsideration carries, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Whitehead.
The main motion is to suspend the real estate purchase, not eliminating it, just suspending it until for 6 months. And well, that's debatable. I prefer 6 months, but if it's 3 months, it's 3 months. But to do it right, I think we need 6 months. So it's 6 months, and the second part is, if the public process fails, then we immediately embark on the real estate deal again. So,
okay, is that motion in print?
No.
And is it 3 months
do you
or
have
6
it?
months? Okay, where is it? 74B? Okay. So let's just be clear in terms of the timelines.
Because you had everything else there.
Is it 74B?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, but there is no time limit, so if you want to add the time limit.
Okay, so let's be clear on what the time limit is. So, Councillor Whitehead, what do you...
Well, my preference is 6 months.
Well, that's good. Are you going to make that part of your motion?
Correct.
Okay. Is that seconded by?
Seconded by Aidan Johnson.
Good call. All right, so the motion's before you. Councillor Ferguson.
Just a question. What's the definition of a failure or a win?
Let me answer it. Well, I think
who are you asking?
Well, I guess I'll ask the mover of the motion.
Okay,
Is
thank
it,
you.
if the Friends of Auchmar say they want the city to invest $6 million, is that a win or a fail?
I would say that that when they come back, the city comes back with a proposal, and it doesn't address or leaves a void, that is not a compelling case, then it's a fail. Because it'll be up to this council to make that decision.
Okay, that's very vague, but is that like a nice definition? What's win or fail? And I just put that out there for thought.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that? Okay. Motion's before you. All those in favor? Standing recorded vote. All in favor?
Deputy Mayor Green, Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Duval, Councillor Collins, Councillor Marula, Councillor Farr, Councillor A. Johnson, Councillor Conley, Councillor Pearson, Councillor B. Johnson, Councillor Vanderbeek, and Councillor Pursuta.
And those opposed?
Mayor Eisenberger, Councillor Ferguson, and Councillor Partridge.
Okay, thank you very much. That motion is passed. We have item 8.1 before you, which is an amendment to the mandate of the Hamilton Port Authority. It's just a housekeeping item. The original recommendation identified Pier 8 as the main area of concern. That isn't correct. It should read that it includes the West Harbour, Bayfront, and the waterfront areas. So that's the amendment. Moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All in favor? Carried. Sorry? Is a notice of motion? Was it it? Okay. I need to waive the rules, or a notice to waive the rules. Moved by Collins, seconded by Whitehead to waive the rules. All in favor? Carried. And again on item 8.1, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 8.2, Councillor Farr, Hess Street South Sewer Connection, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Also, an amendment. This was a previous unanimous council resolution, I think from the last council meeting, maybe the one before. An item from Public Works, a committee I don't sit on. I'll thank Public Works for carrying this for me. Day of, I had sent this amendment essentially to committee the night before, and the original motion is what ended up in the agenda and ultimately ratified by council. So this more clearly defines the essence of the motion, and hopeful that we can amend accordingly here tonight. So it's a notice of motion. I can read it if you like.
No, I think we all have it.
And I wish to waive the rules, so I would move to waive the rules. Seconded by Councillor Collins.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried. On the motion, the motion's before you. Moved by Councillor Farr, seconded by
Councillor Marula.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. On item 8.3, Councillor Pearson, notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a notice of motion that I'd like to move up to a motion. It was in error that it didn't make it here before the reports were prepared. So it's been moved by myself.
Second by Councillor Johnson. Notice to waive the rules. All in favor? Carried. The motion again is before you.
Thank you. It's been moved by myself, second by Councillor Brenda Johnson, that the Canada Day tent party special occasion permit liquor license, whereas I won't go through it all, Mr. Mayor, but this is with regards to Mustang's Big Old Grill, care of Mr. Peter Elliott in Stony Creek, and it's an annual event, and it just got caught in the timelines, and I want to be sure that it's approved for their event on the weekend.
Very good. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. On item 8.4, Councillor Green, you have a notice of motion.
Thank you very much, and if I may just quickly read it, it's not time sensitive, so I have it as a notice of motion, but it's appropriate that it's read now because we've just finished our National Aboriginal Day. So this is an inclusion policy on traditional First Nations ceremonies, and whereas the National Aboriginal Day takes place on June 21st, it is a special day to celebrate the unique heritage and diverse cultures and outstanding achievements of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. And whereas Hamilton is located on the traditional ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee and home to over 15,000 Indigenous people from the four directions of Turtle Island, therefore be it resolved that staff from our Access and Equity Division be directed to consult with the Hamilton Executive Directors Aboriginal Coalition and the Hamilton Aboriginal Advisory Committee in order to create an inclusion policy for traditional First Nations ceremonies in all public buildings, inclusive of smudging, as it relates to Section 13 of Smoke-Free Ontario Act, which exempts from restrictions otherwise placed on the use of tobacco for smoking of tobacco or holded lighted tobacco by First Nations, Métis persons, and traditional First Nations and Métis cultural practices and spiritual purposes. So, Mr. Mayor, this is just I feel like it's more of an administrative housekeeping issue to make sure that when our First Nations communities are in our public buildings, that our staff are well aware of a policy that respects their smudging traditions. Sometimes there's some confusion. I have included in this an appendix from a similar draft motion in York University. This is covered by the province and I think appropriate given the nature of this past National Aboriginal Day.
Thank you. This is not a debatable item at this point, so it's a notice of motion. Sorry, Councillor. I think when it comes forward, we can have the debate then. That was 8.4. On item 8.5, Councillor Vanderbeek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have a motion before you. I would ask that we could waive the rules. There is some serious urgency to this. So I have moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pasuta, that the rules of orders be waived to allow for the introduction of a motion respecting a lease extension for the Rotary Club of Dundas.
Very good. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Councillor?
Thank you. This motion is urgent because the Creekside Parkette is well on its way to being beginning the second phase of construction, and the lease ran out in April. So before the contractors can come in and do phase 2 and finish the park, we need to extend the lease, and that's why I've walked it on tonight. So I appreciate your indulgence. You want me to read all this? No. All right. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ferguson, that the construction lease to the Rotary Club of Dundas be extended to September 30th, 2017 to provide additional construction time to permit the Rotary Club of Dundas to complete construction of the park.
Carried. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion? Hearing not. Just one item. I know that we have some staff here on the ONA issue. Unless there are questions, and if there aren't any questions, we could actually approve that and send them on their way. It is actually item 10.1 on the agenda. So are there any questions? If not, we can do this out of camera and approve. Item 10.1, the Ontario Nurses Association Collective Agreement. Should be on your no report presentation. So we need to go in camera to get a presentation. Madam Clerk? Okay. We will hold that off then and go to items of interest at this point and go into camera thereafter. So items of interest, we could start with Councillor. Jane, if you could take the chair, I have a function I have to attend, and I'll leave you to all this good work. And the floor is yours, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have a piece of news I'm very excited to share. On July the 13th, which is a Monday coming up next month, we are having a special ceremony to welcome the witness blanket to Central Library here in Hamilton. As you all know, the witness blanket is coming for the period between July the 12th and August the 30th to the Central Library. We voted to authorize expenditure of up to $5,000 to facilitate the coming of the blanket. It turns out we will be using that money, and we're going to be using it almost certainly to subsidize travel for First Nations people from the region to come be part of the blanket and visit with us when the blanket is here, particularly on July the 13th, which is our special ceremony day. I'm very pleased to announce that Chief Ava Hill, the democratically elected chief of the Six Nations, is going to be a speaker at our ceremony, and also Bob Ray, Chief Negotiator for the First Nations in the Ring of Fire, will be joining us and speaking on the 13th at the ceremony. That's at 1 p.m. on the first floor of Central Library, and I hope to see all of you there. Thank you very much. That's all I'm going to say tonight. Cheers.
Councillor Farr.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Saturday, Linwood Charlton Mental Health Awareness Walk. Open streets on the Sunday on James North. Once again, great tradition there. Canada Day, Bayfront Pier 4. Gore Park with all things Pan Am, July 10th through the 24th. The International House at International Village, July 14th through the 24th. Any other downtown and citywide Pan Am events, all of that, and then some at jasonfarr.com, including, to get the details, Victory Gardens. Bill's always, Wilcox, offering updates to, I believe, all of us. It's just a phenomenal effort, an award-winning effort now, deservedly so. Glad to play some small role as a Ward 2 councillor, but a lot of the credit to these Victory Gardens, and these very large Victory Gardens, almost urban farms, Councillor Pasuda. They go to these kids here. I don't know if the camera, Cable 14, wants to look at how much better that is than my urban garden. So congratulations. They're flourishing. The pounds keep multiplying, and I keep updating the website as to how successful, once again this year, the progress is as it relates to the many Victory Gardens in Ward 2 and throughout the city. So thank you to Bill for the latest update. It just came this morning. And finally, as it relates to my own garden, I want to thank my colleague, Councillor Pasuda, for giving me the discount. He just passed along his own farmer's discount, I guess, on a thing called Critter Ritter to help me with my raccoon issue under the porch. Unfortunately, it appears they prefer to snack on it rather than run from it. But it was a great discount, and whatever else you got in your bag of tricks, please step up.
Councillor Marula, do you have any good news to report? Councillor Collins.
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, I had the honor and the pleasure of attending Rosedale Elementary School's graduation ceremonies today, and I wanted to congratulate to all the boys and girls who graduated, and now most of them will go on to Viscount Montgomery. And included in that list was my son Chase, who won 2 awards today, Principal's Award as well as the French Award, so very proud of him, of course, our whole family, and wanted to mention that tonight because they're out celebrating this evening, and I'm here. So I just wanted to make it public that he won those awards, and yes, and all the boys and girls did a terrific job at the Assembly today in terms of the presentations and all the proceedings, and very proud of all of them who accomplished a lot through the last school year. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Duval.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And just a couple of things on Concession Street, still going. It's on target, and if anybody can help out supporting the businesses up there, I would really appreciate it as the construction goes forward through the summer. And another piece of news is on Canada Day, July 1st, next Wednesday, at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Mountain Park at Gage and Concession. Our MP Chris Charlton holds her Canada Day celebrations up there. It's well attended, and everybody's invited if you'd like to come. So, thanks very much.
Thank you for the invitation. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Deputy Mayor. I wanted to mention I attended the movie night for Gorley Park, and it's probably one of the most successful events they've had. There's over 1,000 people there. So kudos to Randy, Linda, Chappell, Karen Marcoux, and the rest of the committee. They pulled off a fantastic evening, and it was great to meet many of the residents in that area. The other thing I want to announce, Mr. Chair, is that I am actually going on holidays tomorrow, and I will be away for a week. So for those constituents, they may not get an immediate response on my cell phone because I'll be at a cottage where there's no internet or no cell phone because my wife demanded that. So that won't be interrupted. So for from 26th till the 6th, I will be out of town, and but my very capable staff will take the calls and address those concerns, and they will leave messages if there's an emergency that I need to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. I just got a couple of really amazing things that happened in Ward 3. We had our very first annual Barton Street Festival. It was absolutely an incredible event at Woodlands Park. Really the idea of one resident who thought really big and went past a bunch of no's, and it was absolutely an incredible event, well attended, something that I think really is indicative of a resurgence in that community. So I'm very proud of the work of Rachel Braithwaite and the folks down there, all the volunteers. And secondly, the second day, as you know, we've been very busy with Pan Am, and I'm very grateful to the Soaring Spirits Aboriginal Powwow who hosted the torch relay. And the young gentleman who ran the torch in was actually a young athlete that I coached from when he was about 14, 15 years old, Johnny Powlis. He's now one of the best lacrosse players in the world in his early 20s. And so it was a proud day to receive him on stage there, as well as really appreciative to the branches of Native Development, a group of volunteers who've been 19 years running that powwow in Gage Park. It's my third year in attendance there, and it's absolutely an incredible cultural experience for us, something I'm certainly looking forward to next year. So lots of great things with Pan Am coming up. I will be heading to Saskatoon for the Canadian Institute of Planners on Friday to brush up on my planning and the best practices of planning as it relates to our country. So that'll be interesting. Always a good opportunity to see what's best out there, and so I'll be returning back early in the week as well. So lots of great things happening in Ward 3, and shout out to all the amazing volunteers. Councillor Partridge?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And I had the pleasure of attending the Waterdown District High School graduation ceremony yesterday. Absolutely fabulous. It was over here at Hamilton Place, and it's just such a wonderful venue for a graduation celebration from high school. So I'm very proud of our young people, and honestly, after hearing the speeches, our future is in good hands, so I'm very happy about that. Tomorrow, we have Waterdown Rib Fest, which is starting. It's 4 full days, and at 5 o'clock on Thursday, which is tomorrow, is the opening ceremonies. I've heard that I'm supposed to show up at 5 o'clock and that there is a mechanical bull in my future that we're supposed to be riding. So that will be part of the grand opening ceremonies. I'm not so sure how that's going to go, but we'll see. So that's happening at Thursday, and of course it runs all day Friday night. And then Saturday morning at Rib Fest will be the Hamilton Firefighters for Charity motorcycle ride. Registration's at 9 o'clock, and the riders take off at 10. Then at 11 a.m. is the skate jam, which will be part of Rib Fest, held in the Memorial Park Skate Bowl. So everyone's invited to that. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. And then on Sunday is our citizenship ceremony, and it's always wonderful. We've had it for the last 4 or 5 years at RibFest, welcoming newcomers into our community. We have a couple of residents actually from Carlisle who are from Great Britain, and they will be part of the ceremony getting their citizenship. So I'm very much looking forward to a wonderful weekend. Everybody's invited to come to Waterdown, to the many activities. And you can also check my website, judypartridge.ca. Thank you.
Councillor Pasuda.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Green. I've got a few things here, and I'll try to be quick. My son Ryan and I, and my son Ryan's in the military out west, we brought him and our twin grandsons there a couple of weeks ago, attended the Veterans Committee Decoration Day ceremony at the Woodland Cemetery.
And Ryan, along with myself, we walked up and laid the wreath down there. It's a very moving ceremony, and I'm on the Veterans Committee along with Councillor Marula, so it was good to be there. School Board, Hamilton Winthrop District School Board in the city, we had a meeting over at the Dr. Seton School in Sheffield back on June the 16th. Had some parents come out, and we had discussions on how we're moving forward on the new school at the Beverly Community Center site. Lots of good questions from the parents. It was a good meeting. Same night was the Rockton Lions 50th anniversary. All the Lions clubs from my ward were out there. I had a tremendous dinner and a visit and an excellent speaker. Golden Horseshoe Food and Farming Alliance. I attended that meeting on June the 17th in Woodbridge at the conservation offices there. That's why I was not at GIC. June the 18th, I was on a road trip with our very own CBC Samantha Craigs, and interesting road trip. Created lots of controversy, there's no doubt. Yesterday, I was by Queen's Park along with the mayor of Pushlands, Dennis Lever, Susan Fielding, councillor from Pushlands, and representatives from Maple Leaf and from Nestle Waters, and we're on the Morriston number 6 bypass coalition and still working with them to get a bypass around Morriston because of the bottleneck there where the highway narrows on the way to the 401. So, and it was a very good meeting. We were well received. Upcoming Rockton Fairgrounds, June the 29th, I'm going to be involved in pie making to learn how to make pies for the upcoming dinner theater. Linden Can Day Parade, July 1st, it will be there. Also, Greensville Optimists at Webster's Falls Picnic in the Park Canada Day, same time. That will be at 1 o'clock. I'll be there, and I believe Councillor Partridge may be there too. And then over to Troy, they have about 6 tractors go around, a couple of vehicles to Troy for a parade for 2 o'clock. The Ontario Horticulture Society Conference will be at Redeemers College, and I'll be bringing greetings on behalf of the mayor and city on July the 3rd. And that's about it. Other than Mr. Deputy Mayor Green, you've been Deputy Mayor for the month of June. First time. I'm impressed by your workings, your service, sir. I will say, though, and I'm going to say it, I was taken back tonight by the lack of respect for you as Deputy Mayor and the Chair tonight during some of our conversations. And you stood up well to that. Thank you, sir.
Well, I can appreciate that comment, but on to your question, you have a pie making contest. Is there a pie eating contest as well? I'd be happy to attend. No? Okay. Councillor Vanderbeek.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I don't have much. I do want to note that the building permit has now been issued for the Dundas Brewery, so we will eventually have some Dundas beer. Nice. Everyone's been waiting for that. I'll invite you out when they open.
I'll bring them.
Okay. Creekside Parkette is about to begin construction, and I thank my colleagues for their support tonight that will allow that to happen. So that will be another park right in the middle of downtown. And we had quite a Pan Am torch relay event in Dundas on Sunday. There was a good crowd at the Grafton Square. We gave away, BIA gave away 250 hot dogs and probably that much water. And many, many dads and others were able to stand on the podium wearing a gold medal and have their picture taken. So if you missed the event, you missed being a gold medal dad on Father's Day. Last evening, I was privileged to join several of my colleagues at the 2015 Senior of the Year event on the mountain, really well run by Joanne Priel and her staff, Lisa Maychak, and others, and I thank you for the invitation. It was my privilege to present the Diversity and Cultural Award to Michael Edward Grant, who I understand is a Ward 13 resident. And so I was pleased to be there. One last thing is that on Canada Day in the Dundas Driving Park at 8 a.m., anytime after 8 a.m., you can enjoy pancake breakfast on behalf of supporting the Rotary Club of Dundas, the clubs of Dundas. At 10:30, there will be official ceremonies for Canada Day, and everyone is invited. The Lawn Bowling Club typically has their open house, so it is a full day, actually, of things that happen in the park on that day. So thank you very much.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start out with some sad news. Earlier this week, we lost Jim Green, a beloved volunteer, outstanding citizen, and a local historian. He was 84 years old. He actually started his career at Studebaker and spent his last 22 years of his working life working for the Hamilton Conservation Authority and was a great asset to them. After he retired, he became a avid volunteer. He loved Ancaster history. He wrote books about them, conducted many bus tours of our community, and attended daily and volunteered at Philcote Memorial Park and Museum. He certainly helped my office, and I'm glad Jerry Davis is not here because he might have to cover his ears knowing that we do this stuff up there. But when the little stuff comes up that's annoying to the community, but it's, you feel almost embarrassed to call Public Works, and they got to put it in Amanda and then send a supervisor down and then get it on a schedule. The little stuff, sign down, something not working properly, you call Jim, and Kathy called Jim and said, can you do this for us? And an hour later you call back and say it's done. And the classic example was before I come on council, my brother was here, the Sulphur Springs fountain was falling apart. And so it was raised here, got a report back, and it was told that it was going to cost just over $400,000 to fix it. So we called Jim, asked him for a price, and he said, is $800 okay? I said, yeah, I think we can live with that, although I hear Murray got in trouble with the procurement staff because he just put it through his ward budget, and because he didn't go to public procurement. But he fixed it and it's still standing strong today. He did a great job on it. But that's the kind of guy he was, and I just want to express our sadness and gratitude to his family. He's survived by his wife and children. I think he has 2. And the service, not the service, they're going to have a private service, but the visitation is tomorrow. And we'll miss him in our office. He was in there at least once a week looking for either to tune me up. A funny story is he would regularly tell me, I will never vote for you. And my answer was, I don't want your damn vote. And the reason he couldn't vote for me, he lived on Jerseyville Road, which is definitely in Ancaster, but it's in Pasuda's ward. And so we sparred about that constantly. But that's the kind of person he was. He had a great sense of humor. And I'm sure, Rob, you probably ran into Jim through the years too, because he was very dedicated to the agricultural community. So it's a sad, sad day, and we'll miss him dearly. On a brighter note, we too had a reception for the Pan Am Torch on Sunday afternoon on Father's Day. And, we're hearing a lot of comments about apathy towards the Pan Am Games and ticket sales going so poorly. And so I was asked about that by the media. I said, I guess I'm giving this away. I said, will you put your camera over my shoulder and look at the crowd here? It was a very significant crowd. The front of the old town hall was packed. So there seems to be enthusiasm for it, and hopefully that translates into more ticket sales. But I want to thank the Business Improvement Area. They too, like Dundas, hosted the event, put on free hot dogs and drinks, and we had entertainment for a couple hours until the torch arrived. And lastly, I too attended the Seniors Awards last night. Jan Lucas, she's been volunteering since she was a child. She was a high school teacher and guidance counselor. She was my 3 daughters' guidance counselors, and they turned out okay. But a passionate lover of Ancaster, and so she won the Bernie Brownlee Lifetime Achievement Award, and well deserving. I asked her, can I now officially break your camera? And she's just constantly taking pictures of everybody and posting them, and she wouldn't let me have it. And there's also Bob Thompson for his leadership at the Ancaster Senior Achievement Center, and Chester Faulkner, who also was a major volunteer. So I was proud of the 8 awards. We got 3 from Ancaster last night, and it was great to be there and help present them. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I did check the program to see if it was the Ancaster Seniors Award when it was there. And but on a serious note, a very fitting tribute to a fine man. So thank you for that. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you very much. We too had a torch relay, and it was at the Puttycombe Farms in Winona, and Ted Michaels from CHML was the lead-off man. Lots of pictures of him being the lead-off man, and then it was never put in the paper, and his name wasn't even included in the Spectator of all the runners that were there that day. So I can vouch for Ted Michaels. He was there. Vinemount Meadows has just been released from the Vinemount Quarry to the Naturalist Club. This is a piece of land that's just north of the Vinemount Quarry on 10th Road, and the Naturalist Club have now got a 24-year lease to take care of it, and it's absolutely spectacular. If you ever want to go for a nice hike with the kids, please take a couple of minutes and go down and see it. So congratulations to the Naturalist Club. I know it's in good hands. And all the other information I'm about to you can get it all on brendajohnson.ca. This Saturday is the Strawberry Social at the Earl and Lee. And this has been such a success story. They've now just hired a curator, so that's how well things are coming around. The Winona Horticultural Plant Sale is going to be this Saturday as well on Mountain Avenue, actually 44 Mountain Avenue South. Canada Day in Bimbrook is going to start at the Fresco Plaza. There's a trolley every 15 minutes going to the Famille Florine, so please make sure you can get out to that. And so we also have Active Seniors Exercise Program on Tuesdays, Gentle Fit on Fridays. This is now a change in July and August. It's going to be at the Christ Woodburn Church. I promised the Glenbrook Home Support I would announce that. They had to change churches for the summer. The Winona Farmers Market is Tuesdays from 3 to 7. Bimbrook Farmers Market is Saturdays from 8 to 12. So I'm very lucky. I get to eat local, eat fresh, and that it's just, they've been amazing events. The Winona Peach Festival Pageant, it's going to be this July the 9th, and the Peach Ball is July the 17th. It's kind of hard to understand that it's going to be this close, and it's coming up quickly. The library has started the Reading Buddies, and this is where young teenagers come into the libraries and they read to your children. Bimbrook and Saltfleet Libraries, both in my ward, are going to be recipients of that. Please go to the website to get more details. And Wheel Food Wednesdays is going to be at the BAS every Wednesday, obviously. And I just want to also, oh, I've lost my notes, sorry. Anyways, thank you. Cheers, that's it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Pearson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Well, a few things, and just touching on Councillor Pasuda, I wish him much success on pie making. Brought back memories when you said that, because I find tender flake from the freezer section works very well. And I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, I too, also in Ward 10, we had the torch relay come through on Sunday around 11:30, and I had the honor of having Lloyd Turner take the torch from the cenotaph in Stony Creek. His family were there. Again, it was an absolutely phenomenal turnout. Very, very proud of our citizens who came out. Lloyd's family were all there. I was really glad to try and catch the whole family in at the cenotaph to get them in with him and get a picture. So it was a wonderful time, and I think we're going to have a very successful Pan Am Games. On another note, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm excited to say, and I'm just trying to firm down an approximate time, but hopefully sometime in July we will be having 3 streets out of 4 that I had beginning urbanization last year will receive their top coat of asphalt, which will mean completion. It'll be Kilbourne, South Meadow, and Elm Drive in Stony Creek, so really pleased with that. And the residents have been absolutely phenomenal. Their patience has been great. We've had a few glitches, few problems, you always do, but everybody sort of took things in stride, and you know, I have to commend the residents. Staff have been phenomenal. The contractor was West Rock, who I know has worked on previous construction projects in Ward 10 and has been working on King Street in Doug Conley's ward. Wonderful company. So I'm just going to mention that. And also, up to graduations that Councillor Collins mentioned tonight. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the graduation ceremony for Orchard Park because they start at 7 o'clock and we're way up at Carmen's tonight. But I do want to extend congratulations to everyone. Elementary school going to high school going on to university and college. Congratulations to all of the young people that are moving up in the world. And a special best wishes to, I have 2 nieces. One's graduated from grade 8, going to high school in September, and a niece that has graduated from high school and will be beginning university in September. So, and lastly, I know I'm going to leave Councillor Connolly to mention tonight, but the reminder of the 50th anniversary Canada Flag Day Festival in downtown Stony Creek. I know I mentioned it last council meeting. I'm going to let Councillor Connolly mention it tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Connolly.
I can
good segue there, eh?
I got permission from Councillor Pearson. Well, it's true. It's the 50th Flag Day celebration. It's going to be June 27th. There's going to be entertainment. There's going to be rides for the kids, and there's going to be a pancake breakfast, free pancake breakfast from 8 till 10 on Saturday morning. The other thing that's happening on Saturday is at the site of the old Stony Creek Dairy, we know we've got Bay Bridge Senior Center is going to be built, and they're having the ground breaking ceremony there at 10 a.m., which I'm privileged to be. And I will be at the Fiasco Park welcoming the new citizens to Canada, like a lot of other people are going to be. First time I've done it, and it's going to be a big honor to see people from all over the world coming to the best country in the world. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Conley. We actually have a second-time speakers list. We have Councillor Whitehead, followed by Councillor Duval.
Yeah, two things. This one here is really, I think, important to announce because we always just received it from Mike Zagaric. Standards & Poor's Rating Service has just released a summary of their recent research update reaffirming the cities of Hamilton's AA credit rating with a stable outlook. This update makes reference to the series of positive observations, including the city's very strong economy, exceptional liquidity, and relative low debt levels. In addition to these observations, S&P identified certain constraints such as the city's limited ability to defer capital spending and its average budgetary flexibility, including limited funding opportunities from the senior levels of government. So I want to thank our finance staff for all the great work they do. I know Mike's not here, timely email, but we have the media here, and I think that's important because we always focus on the services, but we need to also keep our eye on the debt. And this speaks volumes in regards to we're going in the right direction. And the last one is, Mr. Chair, I just want to announce that I do cross-border shopping. Recently, well, I go often because I'm very close friends to the owners of the Greensville Gourmet. And I'm not sure what riding it's in. Whose riding is it in? Roberts, Greensville's Roberts? Well, Robert, it's an excellent service and it's got great spices. I'm going to advertise them because I said I would. Incredible work. Thanks.
Councillor Duval, followed by second-time speaker.
Sorry.
No, we actually have Councillor Duval first. Yeah.
Sorry about that. When I was listening to the other councillors, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Vanderbeek, about the senior awards last night, I think it's important to know that there was Lou Stephanus, who was in Ward 7, who received the honor of the YWCA Seniors Active Living Center Award, and also David Watts from for Neighbor to Neighbor. And I mean, I know there was a few of us there last night, but it had to be one of the best I ever seen, with well over 500 people, I believe, attended. But out of the 25 great nominees, Fred Missio became the Senior of the Year, and I've never seen a funnier man in my life. This guy, he should be on TV. He's a comedian, and it was well deserved, but it certainly brought a lot of enjoyment to one of these senior awards. So just want to mention his name. Thank you.
Last second-time speaker, we have Councillor Johnson.
Thanks. I just wanted to wish Councillor Pasuta best of luck tomorrow. He's running to be chair of our Hamilton Conservation Authority. I'm looking forward to supporting him at our Conservation Authority AGM. Wishing him the best. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion to that bill number 15-154 to number, we got to go into camera. I skipped it. We're going to be moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by, I thought we had agreed, okay. Got it. Okay. Thank you very much for the guidance. Moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Whitehead, that we move into camera and for labor, to deal with labor relations. I was one ahead of us here. Okay. So that is pursuant. Do I have to read that? Yep. Okay. May I have a motion to move into closed section pursuant to section 8.1 subsection D of the city's procedural bylaw 14-300 and section 239 subsection D of the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to labor relations or employee negotiations. That was moved by Collins, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All those are in favor, carried. We'll be moving into camera. We'll ask